All right, what up, everybody? We're live. Finally. I'm here with Tommy Jeffree.
Hey, Jeremy.
What up, man? Haven't seen you in fucking forever.
It has been a minute, but it's cool to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came in, man. I hit you up like probably a month ago at least.
Yeah.
Asking if you do a podcast. And I was like, fuck, I'm not even ready for you to come in, but I'm just so jazzed for you to agree to it that like I wanted to get you in here as soon as I could.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, we got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'm so fucking psyched you're here. So we were just talking about Dan and the podcast I did with Dan.
Yeah, I liked it. So I know Dan from way back when I used to be a teacher.
Yes.
Back in Havasu, Lake Havasu. And
pull that closer to your mouth.
Yeah,
talk right into it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've known Dan since way back, actually, when I was teaching, and
yeah,
it's neat for me to see everybody that I worked with, go from being like these impressionable young people to, a little bit more standalone, standoffish, whatever you're gonna call it. Like, you've made your way in the world now, and like, seeing who you become is cool.
You became adults.
Yeah,
you're like making me blush. I don't know why.
Oh, no eye contact.
No, it's funny, man. No, it's like so for people who don't know, you were my English teacher in sophomore year high school.
Yeah, way back. We
were just talking about how when you were my teacher, you were younger than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, starting out, like, I took that job right out of college, so I was like 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was 23.
That's crazy.
When we were working together, yeah. So I had that job in Havasu for 7 years. I did 2 more years up north in Bullhead.
Yeah.
And then
you went to Bullhead.
I did. I went to Bullhead.
Lake Havasu High.
I did.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I dipped out.
Will you pull that a tiny little bit closer to you?
Sorry,
it doesn't have to be on your mouth, but I realized in the first couple podcasts we were using the mics wrong, so now I dialed them in more. But now it's like this weird thing I'm still trying to fucking work out. We'll get there eventually.
Sorry, man. You got to get used to it.
Right.
Still working out the kinks. But,
sorry to cut you off. So you went to Bullhead.
I did. I took a gig in Bullhead because it was just a better business opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of cool because I wanted to check out. I had been with a public school district, obviously, in Lake Havasu for years and years, and then I wanted to try charter. I wanted to see what it was about. Yeah,
school.
like, I was still really into it at that point, and I wanted to kind of see what the difference was like. And man, it was kind of cool. Like, the difference between the two is just like one's just run like a small business.
Yeah.
So small business is a little bit more nimble than, some big corporation. Like a public school district, it's got to be like changes have to go from like the top down. And it takes a while to trickle. Whereas like you've got a charter school.
Yeah.
Dude, you can make a change like top to bottom like that day.
Yeah.
So it's, it's smaller, but
because they say so.
Yeah, basically, it's like you work for someone who decided to be, a crazy asshole and start a school. And it's not like it's not like a city, zoned a school and did it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of mixed opinions. Pull that up closer to your mouth again. I just watch your waveform, and like people tell me to shut the fuck up about it, and I need to, but it's like
no worries.
Until I do 50 of these, I'm not gonna get over it. I have a lot of opinions about education and the way it's funded and the way it's going, and I mean, education for me is a weird one because I dropped out of high school and I didn't finish it. Mm-hmm. But I got a GED and I went to college.
Right. So are you any less intelligent than anyone else?
No, and I have a lot of opinions about the word intelligent too.
Exactly.
Education, knowledge, and intelligence are all different.
Yeah.
And I think people use them interchangeably, and I think people need to stop doing that. Because I think a lot of like intelligent people go to college, and I think the standard is like you have a 3-digit IQ, higher than 100, and you go to college. That's usually the standard. But I know a lot of people who go to college who aren't like that intelligent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, critical thinking isn't their strong suit.
No.
But what they study is a strong suit for them. So they gain the education and the knowledge, even having a lower intellect than other people.
Right.
And I've worked in higher education since I was 17. So, like, I dropped out, got hired at MCC, did financial aid there for 18 months, and then moved up to NAU, worked there full time.
Right.
After I graduated, and worked there as a student worker. So I've worked in higher education for 9 years now. Yeah. And it's weird because like the public education system is getting so screwed over financially.
Yeah.
But everyone likes to say they're not like run like private education, but it's shifting drastically into private education. Like state funding is cut so much that they have to make it up by basically donors.
Subsidize it somehow.
Which are, they sign corporate negotiations, basically, with sponsors to do, like, research in their colleges. Yeah. And, like, I mean, it's basically just private education with a public stamp on it.
I can remember, and this is a goofy thing. You probably never crossed your mind while you were at Havasu. I remember the first lady that I worked for while I was there. She used to love talking about her Pepsi money.
Her Pepsi money?
Pepsi money. We're getting that Pepsi money coming in, and it was like...
Pull that up closer to you again.
It's like that Pepsi money.
That's perfect.
Well, that was from all the vending machines on campus.
Oh, okay.
So someone had to pay to buy that right to vend there, which, don't get me wrong, that's probably pretty profitable. How many kids do you know are running around, with bottles of water, or bottles of Aquafina?
Oh, man, my fat ass bought one every day.
Right? So you think about, like, how much money you're dumping into that machine throughout the course of a school year. So if... whatever business. I mean, you could even say the same thing, like, and I should probably stop, like, naming names, but, like,
it's okay.
I mean, even, like, the food services are done, in prisons that way. They're done in schools that way. Like, they're basically shipped out. Like, they're outsourced.
Yep.
And, just get somebody else in here to do it because we don't have the time or the money or the inclination. So, yeah. They'll do it, and then we can focus on mismanaging other ways.
Entirely. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, no, it's funny to hear you talk about, like, higher education and things like that, because that was one of the things, the longer that I spent in that business, and it is a business.
It's totally a business.
It's completely a business.
Students are customers in higher education.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Right. But, like, I felt bad, like, the longer I spent teaching secondary ed, like high school, because we were just pushing how critical it is, absolutely critical, that you go to college and that you attain this 4-year degree, and that you take on $100,000 worth of debt so that you can make $60,000 a year.
Yep.
Squeeze out 2 kids, buy a house you can't afford, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, we're putting more cogs in the wheel.
Yeah.
And I felt bad about it. And, like, by the end, like, I was looking at, I don't know, like, if school's not their strong suit, what is your strong suit? Like, if you want to go be a pipe fitter, go be a fucking pipe fitter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you could be great at it, make 6 figures a year. Just because you didn't decide to go the same route as someone else, that doesn't make you any less than.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it bugged me. Like, it was legitimately something that bothered me. And then, like, high schools, they would wear this, like, badge on their chest, like, we send whatever X% of our students to colleges. It's like, all I'm hearing is, like, we're making Y amount of dollars for said school.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And their sponsorships with high schools and colleges.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's
something that, like, I've said it a couple times on this podcast. I think education needs to shift drastically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like, or how to change it.
Right.
But, like, one thing I said to I think Tyler when he was on here was just that, like, I think it could be some kind of pairing with corporations or jobs in the marketplace, like even at mom and pop shops or whatever. Like, they apply and say, hey, we would like a graduate to do this job on this year.
Right.
In the graduating class of 2020.
For sure.
And then, that student has a job when they graduate already.
Yeah.
Or make it free so people can study the things they want to study that don't have jobs after college because it is just a passion for them and they're trying to attain that knowledge.
Right.
Like, I would like it if, there was podcasting classes for free somewhere and I could just go do that or whatever.
Well,
even though that's not a job outside of school.
We don't encourage, I mean, you could, like, even, like, broaden that and think about, like, we don't really encourage people to go out and be entrepreneurs.
Totally.
Like you're expected to, we were just talking about it, actually find a sweet gig at a corporation if you can, and try to be a highly, valuable asset to that company.
Absolutely.
But that's not, not everyone can pull that off.
Yeah.
We don't encourage kids to go out and pursue that. And it's scary, but there's a lot more potential there than, trying to be a cog in the wheel. Like when I think about
pull that
classes,
up closer a little
I keep doing it. Like when I think about
it's a natural thing. Classes, it's like something's right in your face and you try to get away from it.
Like leaning back.
Yeah.
It's all right. I'm working on it. I'm getting there.
I know. It's a learning experience for everyone.
Like when I stopped teaching and I started working for myself, and the weirdest thing was because, I've been in school literally from the time I was, 5 years old, and then I taught until I was 32. So, I had bells my whole life.
Yeah.
So it was like all of a sudden living without, not having that around was much, much different.
Yeah.
And, it kind of led me to look at the structure of education and why things were laid out the way that they were. And it was literally to produce great factory workers. The way the bell schedule is arranged, it's just like show up on time, punch the clock, learn to be what we need you to be, stand when we tell you to stand, sit when we tell you to sit. Yeah. And that's just not
honestly
the way of the world anymore.
That's why it didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
In high school. I've always been fairly self-aware, and like I just always knew, like I hated going to school as a kid. Like even in middle school, elementary school, like I hated it. Like I was always ditching school, missing school, calling in sick, whatever. Mm-hmm. And like, so I finally got to the point where, I'm reaching the point of adulthood. I'm 16. I don't want to go to school anymore. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And all I can think is, if in 2 years I can make all my own decisions, like why can't I just start now and stop doing that shit? Mm-hmm. And I'll go to school and study something I want to study instead of going to all these classes doing shit that I don't want to do. And I was one of the lucky kids in the sense that I did my research and, looked into GED and looked into college and looked into financial aid because I knew I couldn't afford it. And I did it. And I know my route is not even close to a solution for anyone, but it worked for me. Mm-hmm. But school was such a pain for me that all I wanted to do was do shit I wanted to do. And it's funny because like 10 years later, I still have that mindset. I just want to do shit I want to do.
I completely agree.
And that's why I'm doing the podcast.
Well, I'm not sure if we're telling like young people to focus on the right things. Like, we try to get you to work on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Why?
So to work on your strengths.
Get really good at what you're really good at.
Yeah. Like if you suck at math, why? Who cares? I don't do math ever.
I always joke when people because I don't look like a teacher, so people are like, "Oh, I used to teach." I'm like, "Yeah, I taught English." They're like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I can barely read." Like, it's make that joke, and I don't know. It's just it's what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I focused on that. I was good at that. I don't think that trying to box in a kid who has zero interest in the Franco-Prussian War, like if that kid wants to go weld, go fucking weld. Be a great welder.
Right. Well, and as unfortunate as that is, they're taking away like shop classes in school now.
Oh, for sure.
And they're taking away art classes and music classes because of funding.
Well,
and it's so unfortunate that all these kids are losing those opportunities. Those slight hours in the day where they do get to do what they want to do, and they have a cool teacher who relates to them. And then the next year they're like, hey, like that teacher got fired because we cut that funding.
Yeah, that program doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like that's another thing. I talk about being like a little bit like leery of higher education. I think making sure that we talk to those kids, at that age, 14 to 17 years old. Like you're not going to be able to take your religious studies degree to the religious studies factory and go produce religious study.
Yeah.
So like making sure that they know, like if this is the route that you're trying to go, like have an end game.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I love philosophy. It's cool. But you can't.
There's not jobs in that.
You do. No, you can't.
Well,
go to
and that's what's
factory.
Unfortunate is that's what I say to a lot of people. Like, and people disagree with me, and I'm like, the current education system should not allow you to get a degree in that, because they are allowing you to fail. Because it is pay us $50,000 to get your philosophy degree, mm-hmm. and do all these things that all these professors are telling you to do, who are in the philosophy field.
Yeah, they're authorities.
And no one tells you, like, hey, by the way, like, there's not a job for you waiting after this. So, if you're not top of your class, writing papers, mm-hmm. like going on and getting that master's mm-hmm. or that PhD, you're insignificant in that field, and you're not going to get a job.
No, you're definitely not going to stand out in it. I mean, unless you like are a super creative and talented person, and somehow you find a way to write or find some other way to contribute, like outside of, I guess, like what's traditionally thought to be like your field of study, then that's it. Like, congratulations, like you're gonna lug around this piece of paper for the rest of your life so you can say that you did it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm living that. I mean, it's like I got a degree in film. Mm-hmm. Like, so like I had an interesting like path in film, and that I studied business and IT for like 2 years. I had basically IT jobs the whole time I was in school, because I went from financial aid to working in an IT place. And then I switched to film because I was like, fuck yeah, film is what I want to do. Yeah. And my programming class sucks. Like, I was like, programming's easy to me because I can learn it. I could code whatever. Mm-hmm. But I was like sitting there typing on the on that keyboard doing it. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to do this from 8 to 5 one day, and I'm going to code all day. Exactly. Fuck this.
Exactly.
And so I started looking at the course catalog, and I saw film, and I was like, fuck yeah, film. Mm-hmm. And then I did film, and I majored in screenwriting because I realized really quick the production courses weren't going to get me to be a producer. And the whatever the fucking other course was, or the track, mm-hmm. was not going to be for me. So I picked screenwriting because I was like, I know if I can learn how to write the best shit possible, I could get out there, and this is my only fucking way. And I got a degree, and I told myself, like, I'm going to get a full-time job doing something like financial aid. Yeah. And that's what I did. Yeah. And then I've just moved up from there, and like now I'm a business analyst. But it's still just not to the point where like I'm like, oh, I'm using my college degree that I paid $40,000 for, and I'm still paying my student loans.
I wish
I'm gonna keep paying them.
Okay, so I wish that attitude would catch on.
Yeah,
like I really, really do, because from the time that I started teaching, you know, like I think I started out in classrooms, you know, as an undergrad in like 2004, I think was when I started doing like observation hours as like a sophomore in college or something like that. Graduated 2006, started teaching right after. So I did 10 years in the classroom.
Put that a little closer.
And
that was perfect. No, put it back.
Right there?
Yeah, wonderful.
Perfect.
Yes.
So I spent like 10 years in the classroom. And then from the time I started until the time that I left, the shift that I saw in kids made me not want to do it anymore. And
that's interesting.
It wasn't anything like, it wasn't dissatisfaction with what I do. Mm-hmm. It was I didn't like the kind of people that we were producing. And like that was something like, I obviously kept that shit to myself, but
of course
it was clanging around in my head every single day.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk about your 9 to 5 and you're eating shit for a while doing something you don't love to allow you to do something that you do.
Absolutely.
That attitude is by and large like the exception.
Yeah.
It's not the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That used to be like I don't know. It's like the cliche about like the struggling actor or actress who like is a waiter.
Yeah.
Okay, like they're doing this so they can do the other thing later.
Yeah, it's like Chris Pratt. Like,
exactly.
He was a waiter in Hawaii, I think.
Yeah. Like it's
now he's the biggest movie star on the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. It like you hear about that all the time. But like I saw less and less of a willingness in younger people to do that.
To work.
Well, essentially,
effort,
yeah,
or have a desire or a dream.
Like that just it. I don't know, and I think about that all the time. Like, I'm sure that every like older generation looks at the younger generation like, oh, I can't stand these people.
Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. I
like, what's going on, guys?
Is
anyone seeing this shit?
I don't know. Have you ever listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History?
No, I have not.
If you ever get a chance,
I have heard
it's
good things about that.
Okay, so I've listened to like everything Dan Carlin's ever done. He's a guy's genius.
Yeah,
but like he was talking about when Kennedy first got into office in the early '60s. Like,
yeah,
and all of like Kennedy's military advisors were like hard dudes, like World War II guys, Korea guys.
It's badass,
right? So they're like these. Like I just imagine them like a lot of flat top haircuts, like half smoked cigars, the corners of the mouth, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they thought he was the biggest pussy.
That's awesome.
Because he wouldn't just bomb Cuba.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And they were just like, this fucking kid.
This guy.
Like, we're so sick of this. Like, so I'm sure that like every generation thinks that, about, the one that's up and coming. But yeah, there's just like this, and I'm not sure I can blame the kids today, just because like they're the I generation. Like they've grown up with instant gratification at the touch of their fingers. Like,
absolutely.
Like literally, like, I don't like this. I'm just gonna switch my Netflix program. Like,
absolutely.
Like you see it in like people just throw an iPad at their toddler, and you're just like,
that's my biggest frustration,
dude. It terrifies
with my own generation being parents.
It's starting to get scary.
I don't like it.
How about you just drive in the car, you play I Spy, or talk?
Absolutely.
Talk to your children.
Yeah, and that is something I said on another podcast. I was trying to drive that home for people like this. When I started this podcast, I did not have the knowledge to start this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I had the foundation of how a camera works to put myself on YouTube from being in film school. I had the basics understanding of microphones and audio because of what I learned in film school, but I had no fucking idea what I was doing.
Right.
So I researched and I read every fucking forum and every piece of equipment I bought. I read reviews for it and I watched videos on it before I bought it.
Exactly.
I came home after work and, my girlfriend's a school teacher. I get home at 6 usually. She goes to bed around 9. So I get like 3 hours with her.
Yeah.
So that time is like pretty much our time. So she goes to bed and then I would stay up till like 11 researching podcast shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me months and I fucking hated it. And I fucking, I went to bed exhausted. I was fucking grumpy all the time.
Right.
Like I had no idea what I was doing with my website. And my website still fucking frustrates me, but it's up and running.
It is. I've been on. Yeah.
And it's like, I try to tell people that like, it's like, I fucking came home and did shit I didn't want to do to get to the point where I could do something I wanted to do. Right. And I got to the point where now I can just hit record and do a podcast. But all the work to get to that point sucked ass.
No one saw that.
Right.
No one saw that.
And so it's just like, I understand that people go home and they work from 8 to 5 and they're fucking dead. And all they want to do is watch Netflix because I am that exact person. But sometimes you just got to say, what I want to do is fucking more important than being miserable because my fucking 8 to 5 job didn't satisfy my whatever my need is.
Right. And there's no but I think,
but people don't want to do shit they don't want to do.
Yeah, I think the disconnect with, I guess, I don't know what you'd say, 18 to 22-year-olds right now is that they just anticipate that things are going to become what they would like.
Yeah.
Through the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And it worried me. Like I did the same thing that you were talking about. Like my last year teaching was like probably 2-3 years ago. I don't even remember. But I had an internet business that I would work, at the school like 7 a.m. to, I don't know, I was getting home at like 6 o'clock. I was putting in a ton of time. And then I would do that Monday to Friday. Friday night I would get home, start cracking on the internet business, work until Sunday night.
Yeah.
Put in like damn near a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
And then go back to work and do it again on Monday. And just like clicking off weeks that way, it started to build up. And it got to the point where I was like, I think I want to make a go of this. So, I jumped off into the internet business and like retired, full blown, like finished up school year, went in with a letter of resignation, handed it to my boss.
Doesn't that feel so good?
No, it's terrifying. Dude, I went outside. Like I tell the story like all the time. Like
betting on yourself is a risk, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
It's scary
because I didn't really have. I mean, I could have gone back to it. I guess if things didn't work out, that was a possibility. But yeah, I quit a very good job, probably the best one I'd had in that business.
Yeah,
and handed in the letter, went outside, and I got out to my car and just like I put my hands on my knees and I fucking hurled. I threw up on the ground so hard, dude. I just had this like.
Because it's scary,
dude. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because that's like all I'd ever known as a kid. Since I basically was a kid. You're 21 years old. Like you're not good at anything. Like like you are. You're a kid still. And yeah, that's all I knew. So to not do that all of a sudden was like very, very scary. But yeah, I bet on it. And the internet business that my business partner and I run, like it's grown. And it's a cool. It's a neat industry. We're in like nutritional consulting, and we did that for pretty much a year straight. Online, just like both of us full time. We'd been doing it for about 3 years before that, but then we scraped a little money together and put together like a brick and mortar like studio, like a personal training studio. So we've got that now over in Gilbert. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So so how long from start to finish you quit your teaching job when?
Yeah. I think that was 2015, 2016. So like basically 2 years.
So 2 years from then, and now you're totally self-sufficient, have your own business.
Yeah, we're like
and you have some employees now, right?
Which is insane.
Yeah,
so insane. Like, I always say like I feel blessed and I feel fortunate, and that's I feel like maybe what you're supposed to say, but I feel like I really want to tell people like I'm not fortunate. I work my fucking ass off.
Totally, you worked your ass off, and you deserve it. Well,
and. I wish things were merit based. I really do. That was a frustration I had in teaching. If like I think I told you that I was working until 6 o'clock every night my last year teaching. And that's 10 years in. So, it's not like that person that stays and puts in that extra time
gets any reward for it.
No, other than being well received by their students. So the person that shows up at 8 and it's doing a burnout to get out of the parking lot at 3 o'clock is, they're walking with the same check.
Absolutely.
And that was something that, I don't know, it didn't always sit right.
Yeah, I think there's always a different kind of mindset in every workplace as far as the people who are trying to achieve more,
right,
and the people who are complacent with just, this is my job, this is going to be my career.
Right.
And I think both are okay. If you need
both.
I think there's a lot of people who are fine just doing their 9 to 5. They don't have a lot of goals and aspirations. Mm-hmm. Having a family is their goals or aspirations or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
And that's totally fine. And that's like, I don't want to like be all preachy and like shit on that. It's just that like, I think a lot of people aren't that way.
Right.
And I think a lot of people do want to achieve more, but I think we are just products of the system.
Mm-hmm. We mash you into a little box.
And a lot of people don't understand how to get out of it. And I think it's the biggest, most frustrating thing for my generation, especially with piling on student loan debt.
Right.
A lot of people graduate with credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people, it's like there's so much shit online, like millennials aren't buying houses. And like,
why do you think that is?
Millennials aren't saving for retirement.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll buy a house if you take away my student loan debt, no problem.
Right.
Because I pay rent right now, and if I just add that payment onto it, I could buy a house.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's like there's a reason the economy is the way that it is.
Yeah.
And the 2008 Wall Street bailout didn't help. And I think I'm one of those people who's always paid attention to that type of shit. Like when I was in high school, I was very aware of what was going on in the economy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I've always read the news. I've always read the New York Times and Fox and CNN, and I like seeing the comparisons across the different, liberal, right, left agenda. And
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of people don't pay attention, and I'm trying to educate a lot of my friends that don't vote and shit. And I'm like, guys, like the only way anything's going to change is if you vote. And unfortunately, I was one of those kids when I was 20. I didn't really understand the point in voting because I was like, nah, the system's fucking rigged, man.
Mm-hmm.
But like realistically, the only way to change any of that is to get enough people together who say we are going to change that and fucking change it.
Absolutely.
And it's like the weirdest thing that like in 2008, 10 years ago, we gave like one of the biggest, weirdest things, and they were just talking about it on the Joe Rogan podcast, is that they gave the Wall Street bankers their bonuses that were promised in their checks.
Right.
Because it was in their contracts, even though we were giving them hundreds of billions of dollars to bail them out.
So
we gave them money because they destroyed the housing market.
Exactly.
And then they all made money on top of that.
I'm going to drop something on top of that.
Yeah.
So at that time, while you were living in Lake Havasu, the government was making sure the bonuses were given to bankers who also, do very well.
Yeah.
I was a first-year teacher, thereabouts, like pretty new.
Yeah.
My pay was frozen for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys can think about like your own income, whatever.
Oh, I understand.
Like if it was stagnant for several years.
Yeah.
Cost of living like far outpaces what you earn.
Yeah.
So that was hard.
And my dad was a teacher in Lake Havasu.
Absolutely.
He taught at Jamaica.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's a second or third grade teacher at Jamaica for like 10 years ish.
Yeah.
Now he teaches down here in Chandler.
Good for him.
Yeah.
No, he'll get better, but taken better care of.
Oh, it's better now.
Yeah.
For sure.
At that time, like it was, I mean, everybody was getting it, but it was just hard to, look and see people who were already doing well, still doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like like I was very much affected by all of that shit, just like everyone else was. Like my parents, when I was a kid, they owned 2 houses. And then after the housing market collapsed, they had filed bankruptcy and didn't own any houses.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, it's not like it didn't affect me, like being in a small town and like having parents who were school teachers, like all that shit. But it destroyed the economy in such a way that it's like a lot of people my age don't understand. And a lot of it's, in my opinion, it's just circling back around to happen again.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things, there's never anything new. Everything just occurs in cycles.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, and you kind of, I don't know. That's like, I try not to get too spun up about things anymore, and I try not to get too into the politics of it. It's like, I'm really, really hardcore libertarian. And
I think a lot of people in our generation are.
I think it's the natural evolution here. It's silly to me to watch people chain themselves to ideology just because like we're in red and you're in blue or whatever. Like it just weird. Doesn't. Well, I don't think it adds up.
It's just I think it's just something ingrained in our culture that's like with like the evolution of technology and social media, I think it's only natural that politics and state structures are next. You know what I mean? Like it's like our generation kind of started in this weird evolution without the 60-year-olds being involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
And I think it's going to be interesting in the next 30 years to see what happens when all the 17-year-olds now are in their 30s and 40s, and we're in our fucking 60s and 70s.
It's crazy to think of, but
I think it'll be different, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. The way that the pace that things are changing. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's crazy to think that we've been online since what 1994, like 1996, like something like that. Like just about 20 years.
Yeah.
Like how much has occurred in that 20-year span to today? And I mean, social media, what, 2006, 2005?
Oh man, I got my MySpace profile. 7th grade, 6th grade,
early 2000s. Yeah. So I mean, it is. it's still like it's fairly new. Shout out to Tom.
Right. Yeah. I still see people. You ever see like trolls on Twitter or Facebook with Tom's profile picture?
Yeah,
I love that shit.
Pretty funny.
It always makes me laugh because I'm like, I'm one of like the last generations who knows who Tom is.
I get that reference.
He's a couple years younger than me. They don't understand who Tom is.
I have a Twitter. I haven't been on it in several years just because it got exhausting to read people get so invested in things that like are not going to affect their day to day.
Oh, totally.
So, I would just read it, scroll through it. Okay, I'm a xenophobe, I'm a racist, I'm transphobe.
Oh, man.
I'm this. All right, cool. I'm just going to put this down and leave it alone. And I recently just got back on Facebook because of my business, but I've been on the gram for a while. I like Instagram. It's not very easy. Personal. It's very easy. It's not very personal. Like I don't want to hear about your personal politics on Instagram. I want to see your dog. I want to see what you ate. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Just keep it light.
I'm with you. I know. Yeah. I think Facebook for me, and I think for a lot of people, has turned into kind of just like a news feed. Like you just see posts from and you don't even know what half of them are anymore. You're like, I don't know if that's a real website or not, but it says like this crazy shit's happening.
Yeah. No, basically.
And you're like, what the fuck is going on, Facebook?
Right.
And then Twitter is mostly just Twitter is very political now. It's very much people just sharing and resharing political shit, and it's weird.
I kind of like my. From what I had seen at Twitter, it was people who like-minded people jerking each other off.
Oh, that's for sure.
That's pretty much.
As Joe Rogan always says, it's echo chambers.
Oh yeah, that is
tribalism, and
yeah, that's about it.
I love Joe Rogan's fucking analogies on shit.
Echo chambers it's a pretty good example.
Yeah,
I think for what goes on there.
It totally is.
Try not to get too spun up about anything like that. Facebook, it's a means of communicating for business for me. I try not to get too serious about it. I think actually, like we talked about, like a lot of like millennials moving towards being libertarians, and I think it's just being bombarded with that kind of like people's politics on Twitter, people's politics on Facebook, people's politics on Instagram. It gets to a point with libertarian like movement where you're just like, I just want to be left alone.
Totally.
I can make better decisions than you.
Right.
Like the Ron Swanson, right. like capitalism is God's way of deciding who is smart and who's poor. Say something like that. And yeah, basically, yeah, it's like that's fine. Like you guys can be over here like arguing on like why, bump stocks are the coolest or why they're the worst thing ever. I will be working towards like something productive.
Yeah.
So it's like,
have you been listening to my podcast?
I listened to the Daniel episode.
So that's like what I just said on one. I was like, I really don't feel like a lot of our generation sides with the left or the right. No. I think a lot of us are, and I wasn't talking about what the subject you just were, guns and stuff, but like gay rights and trans fucking rights and shit. I was just saying, like, a lot of our generation is kind of in that weird mindset of, oh wait, are you guys still arguing about that?
Yeah. It's a curb this high.
Because we're done talking about that because we've already just accepted all of that.
Yeah.
Like got over it.
That's pretty much over and done with.
And we don't even have to talk about it and be like, how do you feel about that? And
right.
like,
no.
Because we're all just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. It's over and done with. Like,
just don't stare at me in the bathroom and we're fine. I mean, I don't know.
Like, I don't, and I think, obviously we're talking about like societal nirvana that'll never be. Mm-hmm. But if more people felt like what you do doesn't necessarily affect me, like you're not stepping on my toes by pursuing what you want to pursue, that's fine. Yeah, if you're not harming me and mine, I don't necessarily care. That's my personal viewpoint about it. I'll do me. But like, it's interesting sometimes to talk to people if you can get them to talk to you, because most of the time they replace like making points for speaking more loudly, and that's not necessarily the way to do it. But it is interesting to talk to people sometimes that have views very, very different from your own. Yeah, and just to try to not because you want to argue, but just to try to understand why they feel how they feel.
Absolutely.
Like if there's Adam and Steve, if they are they, why are they going to hell? Why is what they're doing such an affront to you?
Absolutely.
I never really understood that. And in the trans thing, like I think of, going back to teaching, and I had no opinion on it. I'd never had any experience with it, whatever. But seeing, kids that are 15 years old that are not trying it on, like that actually,
that's who they are.
That is who they are. The amount of negativity and friction that they experience on a daily basis is sad. It was really, really sad. Like watching.
I remember knowing a couple kids I went to school with.
Absolutely. Just see them walking around, just shoulders slumped, head down, just crushed because, their parents don't get it. They don't want to get it. They don't want to try to get it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was tough to see.
I keep talking. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, the whole. Oh, we're good?
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay. Oh, right on.
I wanted to see how much time was on that memory card.
Oh, no worries.
There's still 2 hours.
But yeah, just seeing kids go through that, like even just dealing with like gender issues, sexual preference, whatever, like watching those kids struggle was just, it was hard.
Yeah.
And dude, I don't have a preference, like, I don't think like one thing's right, one thing's wrong, whatever. Like, if you're not hurting anyone, I don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. My only issue is, I think those kids need to choose for themselves. And my biggest issue with the whole thing is, like the shit they're doing in Canada, where they're allowing parents to like, do hormone therapy on kids under like 10.
Yeah.
And I think it's disturbing. And I think there's some hyper liberal freaks out there who need to chill the fuck out because they're not scientists. And like, I just think a 5-year-old who wants to dress up like a girl as a boy, should be able to do that, but I don't think you as a parent needs to inject them with something they don't understand. Like
Certainly
a 15-year-old, by the time they're in high school and they've gone through puberty, they probably understand their decisions a little bit more than that 5-year-old when you're taking them to the doctor every week.
Okay, so you at 17 years old had, generally speaking, your shit a little bit more in a pile.
For sure.
Than your average teen. So, I don't necessarily think that you need to try to undo biology. And I actually think it's criminal to put hormones like that in a child.
I agree. I think it should. It's absolutely ridiculous they legalized it
as well. I don't know. Like, having seen what those and our children, having seen what those children go through, who really are confused about their sexuality, whatever. It's terrible, but at the same time, like, if you identify as a particular gender that you're not, and you decide to be that gender, do you need to try to change your biology? I don't understand it. I think if there was,
I think we could chalk it up to, if you hit the age of 18 and you're an adult and you want to do that, it's like we just said, it doesn't affect me, go for it.
No.
But when you're a parent making a decision for the kid, I got a big issue with it.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing with any other shit you want to do for your kid. I'm just saying, if a mom decides her 16-year-old needs implants, it's fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna allow your fucking parent to sign off on that shit?
Yeah.
It's weird. No, wait till they're 18 and they can make that decision. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For me, it's on the same level as cosmetic surgery for kids. Right. Or whatever. And people again, the hyper liberals getting weird arguments where it's what about braces? That's the same thing as changing your breasts. And I'm no, it's not.
Not necessarily.
Having straight teeth is literally
it
chalked up to a health issue.
Allows you to clean them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just there's people who take every argument to such extremes these days that it gets so weird when you try to bring up those small points.
And having that stuff in being in education as long as I was, having that stuff in my face every day.
Yeah.
I shut down.
Yeah.
I literally couldn't bear listening to these dum-dums go back and forth with each other about this inconsequential garbage. It's on the daily basis, how many trans people do you see? Is that such a time-consuming issue?
Let me go with 0.
Okay, yeah, I got out of bed today. I went to work. I came here. I didn't have to interact with anybody. And if I did, cool. I'm glad. I hope you're happy. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
I like to tell people that too. It's such a small issue that we like to politicize it in such a weird way. Republicans are so against it or whatever. But the only issue that for me that people are against it is they're against 100,000 people.
Right.
Out of 356 million or whatever.
But I mean, I don't think there's any effort to try to understand. I think it's just you've decided. You decided this in your head, and that's so because you've made that decision. That's what it must be.
Yeah.
They're
just so against it that they don't care about they don't even think about it. They're not they're not oh yeah, it's actually only that small group of people.
Right. So and I felt a certain way about, and we don't have to go down this road, but it was just an example of something that a hinge moment, a pivotal point.
Oh, for sure.
I was talking to a lady when I was, just starting out. So I was 22 years old teaching. She was in her 60s. She'd already retired and come back out of retirement. And she was teaching English second language students, who most of which were illegal immigrants. And, I think I was bitching about having to, accommodate, these people that shouldn't even be here. And she's an older gal, and she was just oh, sweetie. And I was she's if you were on the wrong side of that fence and your children had the opportunity to live a better life somewhere, you'd put them over yourself. And I had never considered that at any point. And I wonder if people that, wag the finger and, get all political about it, stop to think of it on the humanitarian level.
Oh, they don't.
No, not at all.
And that's why, not to bring up like a poor subject on that one, but that's why no one cares about gun laws or ages until it happens at their school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's talk about it. Could you do me one favor and shut that fan off?
Oh, it's blowing up. Yeah.
I'm all like complaining about being hot earlier, and now I'm like
freezing
a little cold because it's fan blowing on me. Thank you, sir.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yes, the school shooting. School shootings. They hit home for me every time.
Yeah.
Because I'm out of school every day.
Yep.
I work at one. My dad works at one. My girlfriend works at one. So like it is an issue I care a lot about. Guns I'm a big fan of also though. I was born and raised in Arizona.
Yep.
My grandpa was a Marine.
There you go.
He's a competitive gun shooter, which is pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's like a 3-gun shooter, shotgun, pistol, and rifle. He's gangster.
Yeah, it's OG.
But I've respected firearms since I was a kid, and I have a take on it that it's a problem for sure. There's things we could do about it. Absolutely.
Right.
I'm not going to say that giving stressed out school teachers a gun is the answer. I don't know how you feel about it as a previous teacher.
So,
but
my favorite joke about that, not to make light of it, but most teachers, have you ever seen them try to even use an overhead projector?
Oh, they struggle so hard. My dad, sorry, Dad. Yeah. You could do the math on how old I am and how old my dad is. Technology's not his friend, and I don't want my dad carrying a gun at school every day,
right?
Or his colleagues,
right.
So, I mean, it's also just that, like, I don't think people understand how dangerous guns are when they say things like that,
right?
Because me as a gun owner,
right,
I respect them so much that I would never fucking say, hey, would you like to hold on to my gun for an hour?
Could you hang on to this for me?
Could you just put it in your pocket, loaded, and nothing will happen and it'll be fine?
Well, I mean, okay, so you grew up in that culture. Like, you grew up in a gun culture. I didn't.
Absolutely.
But I moved into one.
Okay.
And it's something that I became interested in a little bit later in life. So it's a very, very different culture where I grew up in New York regarding weapons and firearms and all of it. Just all of it. It's a completely different culture. So here, I've been really fascinated in like probably the last like 4 or 5 years with it, and especially owning a business now, and kind of reading up on, getting more into like libertarian politics. Like, no one cares about my shit or my family or cares about me as much as I do, and no one's going to do as much to protect it. And I feel really strongly about that.
Absolutely.
But about, so I think like, yeah, I'm pro Second Amendment, but there's some things that we need to look at. Some like serious conversations we need to have, not just yelling at each other.
For sure.
And not just throwing back and forth infographics on social media, because we're better than that.
I do enjoy doing that, though.
Oh, God.
I have said.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better about it. I'm trying to get a lot better about it, and I have lately.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
that share button is fun though.
Oh God, isn't it?
And then being a troll is a lot of fun too, because a lot of people get raging pissed, and you're like, "Well, that didn't go well." I'm sorry to go on.
No. I was just I was thinking like Florida, in my opinion, is going in the right direction with it. So I've said, when this whole thing happened, I was talking to some family, and I used the explanation of how first aid and CPR works in schools. So I don't know, like let's say if you were a tech teacher at a high school, you might have a relatively small department. It might be 3 teachers, 4 teachers, whatever. Like web design, robotics, whatever. So of those 3 to 4 teachers, one at least is going to be CPR or first aid certified. So you have to take a class, you have to get a certification for that, whatever. I really like the idea of doing what, TSA does. TSA puts air marshals on airplanes. You don't know who they are. I like that idea in education. I think that having someone, 1, 2, whatever, people on campus that have a firearm under lock and key.
Like volunteers or trained
I think
people.
trained. Yeah, for sure. It has to be someone trained.
Certified.
For sure. Like even like Daniel was talking about on the podcast, like even people with training sometimes don't react.
For sure.
Sometimes will surprise you with how they react. And yes. I think I love watching people throw back and forth these arguments about, arming or not arming teachers. Like one thing I think we can agree on is if a gun goes off inside a building, it's fucking loud. And you don't even know how you're going to react to that experience.
I could tell you from shooting something I was not prepared for, right, a little too close to my ear,
yep,
I have definitely lost hearing and eyesight for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
From a gun going off too close to my head.
Right.
Because it was just so loud, and I was like, and I don't know if I lost eyesight because I shut my eyes.
Right.
But the fact is, I don't know what happened for about 5 seconds.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, there's no, I don't think there's a replacement for experience like that. Yeah. But I think that it's a viable option. And I know that Texas had the conversation about looking at the number of students that were at a school and then coming up with a figure that was based on that. So it was like if it was 1 firearm to every 500 students or 1 to every 1,000. I don't know what they had thrown around exact figures, but it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And just I probably sound like a crazy asshole, but I've sat at tabletop exercises with police officers, and they'll sit down and they'll ask you the question, at an in-service before school starts, like, okay, second period just ended. We're on our way to third. You hear a succession of 11 sharp snaps. What do you do? So I don't know.
Dude, what? Can you say that again?
Okay, it's a passing period because...
Say that again. Yeah,
okay,
say that.
You hear a succession of 11 sharp snaps.
Yeah.
Pop, 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 pop. It's not like anything you've ever heard at the school before. It's not someone slamming a locker.
Yeah.
What do you do?
You wouldn't know what to do. Exactly. I think my reaction was what people would do. They'd be like, right. What?
Right.
What happened?
So, no.
I was asking you to repeat it, though. My reaction was bad because I'm a little stoned.
It happens.
No, I agree. That's why I asked Dan, someone who's been literally shot at.
Yeah.
Does that happen to trained professionals? Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because, we train as much as we can here, and then you go over there, and who knows?
Yeah, there's no way that you could even anticipate how you react.
Absolutely.
But I know, and I know this for a fact, and I think that if you sat down and you could talk to, an elderly lady who's working in the classroom, that if something happened, like that teacher is going to go out on their shield. They're going to do whatever they can, because, when something bad happens, there's 25, 28 little sets of eyes looking at you like, what do we do now? Like you're the person in charge. Like you're supposed to be responsible for my safety. What's next?
Yeah.
So, there's been, a few different places that I've been, and every place kind of has their own protocol and how they handle these things. And I think that I was at a school here in Phoenix, and I liked their attitude towards it. Like so they have an armed school resource officer.
Okay.
And we know how that went in Florida. But
as we were saying, that, it can happen.
It can.
And like we were saying with Dan, we don't know what happened for sure, like the whole fucking story.
I don't know if I necessarily believe the details that came out of that either.
But there are situations where someone like that would be told to not go in and wait for backup.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, the response in Phoenix, at least in the East Valley, like where I was, is to go right at it when it happens. Like the school resource officers show up every day like they're dressed like they're ready to invade Poland. Like they're wearing the jacket. They're carrying ammunition, like extra ammunition. Like that's what they're taught to do. And when something like that happens, while they're going at it, they're taught to basically do an all call. And anyone nearby, it doesn't matter if you are from this town or that town and that town, whatever. If your car is near that incident,
all the resource officers go?
No, not all the resource officers. Any car in the area. So
okay.
I don't know, just to use an example, like if we're in Scottsdale and there's a Glendale car there, like Glendale's going to go.
Yeah.
Anybody who's there goes. That was basically the policy that was in place for that district that I was in. So
yeah.
That made a lot of sense to me. But the other thing too is everybody's got their heads so far up their ass about active shooter situations. Like they're not the most common cause for school lockdowns. The two most common are disgruntled parents and wild animals. So you think about that, like whatever, Johnny or Joey's not supposed to be picked up by mom because she's on
divorced parents. I'm sure
exactly. So for sure. So
people who aren't supposed to be on campus,
right? So it's like you're trying to get some broad who's making $30,000 a year to manage just all kinds of things that may be above, their pay grade a little
Absolutely.
bit. Like
it's above their pay grade for sure.
Like it's a little bit frustrating.
So do you think that is the way to go about it, is with an armed resource officer situation where every school has one?
I wish that it wasn't. I wish it didn't have to be, because so having like your calculus teacher walk around the classroom with a fucking Glock on their hip, like that's not an environment conducive to learning.
It's not.
Like, well, and it's hard to relax.
My girlfriend made a good point, and she said if a teacher has a gun in a classroom, every parent has the right to know. She said, maybe you could argue differently in high school, but for a 6-year-old, the parent has the right to know that, that teacher's going to carry a gun every day, and my kid's going to be around it, and that's something that they're going to know about.
I would have to think that.
Because you have to tell the kids, right? I mean, or do you not have to tell the kids?
I think that the same way that you have to have parents sign off on attendance policies at a given school, I think you would have to have parents sign off on just that these things exist on our campus.
I mean, you have to have a parent sign off on a G-rated movie or a above G-rated movie.
Right. Technically, yeah.
Right?
No, it's true. No, you're if you're doing your due diligence, you're supposed to in that industry.
Well, especially for second grade, it's like
for sure. Yeah, I mean, there was cars can be stressful. Lightning McQueen. No, I think that you need to make sure that parents know that our school participates in this kind of program.
Right.
And again, like, I hate that I'm even having to say this. I wish that this wasn't something that we had to consider, but this seems to be the world that we live in. And I don't like why everybody's so like AR-15. Like, I don't like.
It's a big issue for me.
Kalashnikov, AKs have been around. You could argue that AKs have done more damage, historically. I mean, let's go back to, the Thompson submachine gun. Like, that's been in the United States for 100 years.
People forgot what the prohibition was like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about a lot of people, but I paid a lot of attention in history class because I thought it was cool as shit.
Same.
Especially when we got on like Al Capone and stuff. I was like, what? They were doing what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and running moonshine and shit. Back
Legit.
then was dope.
Yeah.
Like the Tom Dillinger movies and all that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So it's not like these type of guns, like
it's nothing new.
Automatic weapons are banned.
Right.
Like you can't just walk into a gun store and buy a gun that shoots 1,000 rounds a minute.
Right.
You just can't.
But
people don't understand. Like my biggest issue is the uneducated and the non-knowledgeable
Right.
preach to the other uneducated and unknowledgeable online, and then they form these echo chambers.
Yeah.
And all they can talk about is their incorrect information. And like an assault rifle is not an AR-15. An AR-15 is an assault rifle, but an AR is just a brand. It's it's an Arlington rifle or an Armalite rifle. And like people, they don't get it. Like people don't get it. Like I always say, like you could do the same thing with a shotgun. Like put 200 rounds in a drum on a fucking semi-automatic gun, and whoever's trained enough puts that thing up to their shoulder, hits that trigger fast enough, and you can do a lot of damage. Like with any type of firearm.
Absolutely. But I just think, in just to, I had this conversation with a client in studio, and she was espousing the evils of the semi-automatic rifles, and you know, she was like, you know, and I said, you know, okay, like look at an AR, it's black, it's scary, whatever. Look at this one, and it's, you know, a wood rifle, and she's like, well, that just looks like a hunting rifle. I was like, this is a Kalashnikov. This is an AK. This is the same thing. Yeah. Exactly. It's a heavier caliber, actually. Like you could argue this thing, like, you know, there's a reason why.
And AKs are actually highly more produced.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's
all over the world.
Well, and that's why there's freaking Soviet AKs that are still in Afghanistan shooting at Americans today, because you can drop the fucking things in a puddle and it'll still fire. Like
I like guns that are made the same as they were. I have a 1911.
Okay. Very cool.
I'm a big fan of old style guns, because it's like they got that shit right.
Well, if it ever jams, you can just hit someone with it. Oh, whatever, 11 pounds, 9 pounds, whatever.
Oh, fuck it.
Yeah, no, it's a hammer for sure. But that's, I mean, people don't care to understand, and I was one of those people. Like I can remember when Aurora happened in Colorado when I was still teaching, and thinking how absolutely insane it was that this kid had the same, I mean, head to toe was wearing the exact same body armor that the first responder, the SWAT guys had. Like, that's crazy. I think it was the only reason they were able to tell him apart from one of the guys that was actually on the team was that he was wearing a codpiece, and that wasn't something that they wore.
I don't know. That's so long ago. We could Google it.
I mean, we probably could, but that was the only thing that I guess made him stand out. And I just remember being like absolutely blown away and thinking that it was so unnecessary for people to have access to these things. And I just think that like now it's the world that we live in. It's naive to think that like policy is going to change anything.
Absolutely. I also think a big issue with it is mental health, and people really like to ignore the fact that a lot of these people are like deranged and are off their medication or are on their medication,
right.
And one of the side effects of their medication is having psychoactive fucking paranoia breakdowns, and no one's fucking paying attention to all this shit that's overprescribed. Not to jump the shark on the topic, I pulled up this article that says the NRA sued Florida to block part of the new gun laws. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
So the NRA, Florida moved their minimum wage to 21.
To purchase firearms.
To purchase a gun.
Yeah.
And the NRA is suing them because the federal government says it's 18.
Right.
Basically that's the gist of it.
So
My biggest issue with it is that I did say, like, I'm fine with the NRA. They're just a group of people who like guns.
Mm-hmm.
I did also say they do fund a lot of shit.
Yeah.
This, to me, the fact that they're suing a state over a state's law, and this could have happened before. I'm not super familiar with how many people the NRA sued over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest issue with this is I feel like the NRA just took a big step into being a political party.
Yeah.
And
that's actually a valid concern.
I feel like that's a big issue.
You know,
because that to me, you're like, now a corporation is infringing on a state's laws.
Oh, and I don't want to talk out of turn because I couldn't put an exact number on it, but there's more firearms in the United States than there are people. Like, we know that's a concrete fact.
Oh, that's a fact for sure.
But there are only something like, are there even 90 million members in the NRA? It's not.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, like, what's the number of members of the NRA? Like, I don't even want to say a number.
I love Google. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of more than 4.5 million moms and dads and sons and daughters in every state across our nation who make up the NRA. Right. That was in a speech in 2013. So it's probably more than that now, but I'll try to find a better number.
No, well, I mean, it's probably close enough, but it's definitely, for some reason, I thought it was like 9 or 90 or I don't know. That would be super, super high. But I myself am not a member. Not sure I'd necessarily agree with the role that they play in politics, which is why I didn't want to support it.
Oh, someone's yelling outside.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Some lady screaming.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Sorry. Sorry if anyone hears that. I was like, what is that, man? I thought maybe I was playing a video, and I was like, fuck.
No,
this says about...
it's probably about 5 million people.
It says surpassed 5 million in 2013, but the road to 10 million strong, whatever.
Right.
I don't know. So at least 5 million people.
So there you go.
That was the Washington
That's
Post.
a pretty good sized special interest group, but like, I didn't want to support it just because I'm not necessarily sure I support their role in politics, and I definitely believe that after Las Vegas, like, the issue with bump stocks, like, no one uses bump stocks. I don't know anyone that owns a bump stock. I feel like bump stock was probably offered up by the NRA to politicians, say, here, ban this, because no one gives a shit about it. Leave our other stuff alone. Make a big issue out of this irrelevant thing. I think you could argue that actually a vertical foregrip on a semi-automatic rifle is a bigger risk than a bump stock. Like, if you put a vertical foregrip on a semi-automatic pistol, like, you're in ATF pound me in the ass prison. That's federal. So you put the same thing on a rifle, cool. Pistol, no. Yeah. Like, I don't understand that discrepancy. So it's like, I tend to think that someone benefited from offering, the bump stock thing up. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but like, that was one I feel like after Vegas, I really feel like the NRA probably took a good hard look at things and said, all right, we should probably make some concessions here. And they offered something goofy like a bump stock.
I'm with you. I said the same thing. I've used one bump stock in my life and it was garbage. Yeah. And it actually made the rifle almost non-fireable.
Right.
Because it kept getting stuck. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, this is fucking horseshit. Like, just take this thing off and let me shoot this gun.
Right.
And I just don't... I love conspiracy theories. And the only thing I didn't like about that Las Vegas thing is that they said he did it with a bump stock. I was like... I don't know, with a pretty solid rifle, you don't need a bump stock to do what he did.
No, I mean, there was some like very weird legal loophole in Nevada that the shooter was able to get a Vietnam era automatic rifle as a historical.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Then what the fuck did the bump stock thing come from?
I don't know. There was another weird, like, he was able to purchase a Vietnam era automatic weapon. Yeah, it was a big one. I couldn't even tell you the name. Like, you could probably Google it.
I mean, there is. I mean, I will say, like, I did say automatic weapons are banned, but there are people who get licenses who are allowed to build them. Like,
right, but I mean, like at this point, like,
and
that particular rifle, I remember reading right after Vegas, it had been in service with the military since Korea, and they used it through the Vietnam era, and they are still kicking around the country, so you could technically buy one as like an antique. I don't know if they realize if anybody is actually tracking how many of these things are around and how many of them are like functional.
Who knows?
But that was definitely a situation where one was used.
I don't know. The NRA fucking records every phone call, so
I don't know, man.
The NRA? Did I say the NRA?
They might have those resources.
The NRA doesn't. The government does. Thanks, Snowden.
Yeah, but
I like to tell people.
Do you ever
when they talk about like Alexa spying on people? I'm like, what are you talking about? Snowden? Did you not see the movie that came out? Like he fucking is 10 years ago. He said everyone's getting spied on. They don't need Alexa.
And it just happened the other day where I was having a conversation with somebody through Instagram. Like a potential client had like applied, and I forget what they had referred to. I think they said something about like, oh, I'm into shooting or whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then, you know, so I exit out of the conversation, go to my news feed, and there's an advertisement there based on the conversation that I was just having. And I'm like, God, I hate that I have to have this. Like, I don't like someone knowing that much about me. But if you think about the little hints that you drop online about yourself or your lifestyle every single day, they're out there. And I don't consider them, but someone somewhere probably has a fat dossier about you.
Right? I know. That's been all over the news lately. Like the ads, like the push ads to Facebook that people are like, my phone's fucking listening to me, man. Like I was having this conversation. Yeah. And like there's like some bizarre ones that like dude like went and bought an engagement ring for his girlfriend, like paid cash, like so he didn't use a credit card, like he never really told anyone about it. And then he had like one conversation with someone like at work or something like that, and then he said for like a whole like week all he had was like wedding ads and like engagement rings ads in his feed, and he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I
like,
believe it. Was the
I feel like that's a huge conspiracy.
Well, there was but there actually was. Oh gosh, I'd have to look at the model. I think it was an LG or a Samsung. It was one of those two model televisions that was actually. It came through that the government had the capacity to use the camera on the television. Yeah.
The camera shit's disturbing.
It is. But it was. I cannot remember the name of the company. I probably shouldn't have said either one of those, but whatever.
That's fine.
No, it's something that I'd read months ago, but it's not something that keeps me up at night, but it's definitely something that I'm conscious of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
No, but I mean. Just I guess going back to the school shooting thing, like,
yes,
I think.
Oh yeah, pull that back up to your face.
Well, I was gonna say I think Arizona's on the right track. I really do, like, because we're talking specifically about Arizona. I like what we're doing here. I think what Florida's doing, it's somewhat like necessary. I don't know if those 16 and 17-year-olds that got together to protest weapons actually did that on their own accord, or if someone who stood to benefit probably helped organize it, throw money at it. I tend to think that that's probably what happened, but it is what it is. So people, they're reactionary in nature.
Yeah.
And
absolutely
every time something happens, it's we need to act, we need to act, we need to act. It's like never when things are going well do we want to examine what we're doing that maybe is a failure as a culture.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's hard to watch.
Oh, we hate admitting that like we're failing. No one will ever do that.
No, but I mean that, and all it makes me want to do is shut down.
Yeah.
Like it makes me not even want to be a part of it, and just like I'm going to be over here with my business and my family, and I'll, I'll take care of things, the best that I know how.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like the only thing, and I didn't even think of it until this girl's like tweet went viral. She was like, "Yeah, that's great. Like, but I'm 18, living on my own in Florida, and now you just took my right away to protect myself in my own home."
Right.
And she's like, "You just put like a big target on 18-year-old girls who choose to live by themselves in Florida." And I was like,
"It's valid."
And I made a pretty horrible joke about it on Facebook. But it is a valid point. Like, I think she does have a valid point, and I think it's difficult in that sense that, like, it is a constitutional right that you can bear arms. It doesn't say anything about age.
Right. Okay, so going off the age thing, I had this conversation with a former student of mine who was in the Marines, and he hit me up and he's like, "What do you think?" And we got into it, and he said, "Well, I was lugging a fully automatic rifle when I was 18 years old."
Totally, a lot of Marines have been
saying exactly. That. And I'm like, "Well, you were also 1 in Afghanistan, 2, you had training." At 18 years old, you had a lot of training. Like most 18-year-olds I know are not some people that I would just randomly like hand a loaded firearm to and say, "Here, do your thing." Like, no, like he was well trained.
And they have to learn a lot before they're even allowed to touch a gun.
Exactly. So that's part of it. And I don't necessarily disagree with the age hike for semi-automatic weapons. I think if you want to allow, an 18-year-old girl to purchase a certain class of something, let's see why not. But I think that bumping, the age limit, the legal age limit from 18 to 21 for semi-automatic rifles is not that big of a deal. I think it's as big of a deal as people want to make it. And I know that the NRA crowd is afraid to give an inch in any direction because they see it as a slippery slope. But
the NRA, in my opinion, just sees it as a decline in profits.
It's very possible.
Less 18-year-olds are going to be buying fucking rifles.
Well, now. I think it's, we're probably looking at it to, like their motives are completely altruistic, and they're probably not. You're right. It probably is related to, the bottom line. What are we bringing home at the end of the day? That kind of thing.
They're like, sales in Florida are going down, boys.
Exactly. But I don't know. I just know that I can control what I do.
Yeah.
And what I choose to do is to take care of me and mine and my business and my family, and that's really all I want to do. And I don't want to deny you your right to manage those things on your own. But, I don't know how long it takes for the police to get to my house if I called, but I know that my 357 responds at 1,400 feet per second. That's what I know.
That's accurate.
And I don't mean that like I'm a gun maniac. Like I'm educated.
He's a maniac.
Like I'm educated and I'm a peaceful person. I'm a good person, and but I'm not so naive as to think that everyone else is also a good person.
I am right there with you, and I don't think Florida setting that law is a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'm pretty sure the law here is 21 for a handgun. It's one of the two. Rifles 21, handguns 21. I think it's handgun 21 and rifle and shotguns are 18.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because we have very lenient open carry and concealed carry laws.
Yeah.
And that prevents basically 18-year-olds from doing that.
Right.
Which I agree with too. I don't think 18-year-olds need to conceal carry.
No.
I will say that being in Arizona, I do feel somewhat safer. And I don't know if that's a false positive, but I know that there are so many people carrying weapons, and I've heard so many stories. There was a robbery down on 35th, I think a year ago, that got stopped at a Walgreens because a concealed carry guy
just shot him.
Yeah.
And the guy was pointing a gun at the register, and
certain
an
states,
old man was there.
Yeah.
I think he was like a 60-year-old dude.
Yeah.
He just took out his gun and shot the guy.
I mean, there's a few states that like it's pretty well understood. Don't fuck around.
Yeah.
And like, I think Texas obviously has that reputation. Like,
yep.
I think the culture in Arizona is like pretty similar.
Absolutely. And like I said, I don't know if that's a false positive, I kind of feel like it isn't.
No, but at the same time, like with, we've had like one mass shooting in Arizona, and it was in Kathy Gifford's down in Tucson, and I don't know. It's a nightmare scenario to imagine a mass shooting like that happening in Arizona and bullets flying in both directions.
I agree.
Because you don't want people in a crowd all of a sudden drawing down, like, I mean, there was a whole lot of talk about people in Las Vegas. Well, if they've been able to carry down on the strip, like, no, like I was like 400 yards away.
You're
going
to fire bullets from the strip into a tower where people are sleeping?
Good idea.
Children and shit?
Cool.
Like, you don't know who you're shooting. That's just,
right.
See, and that's what I mean about just naive, uneducated people saying stupid shit. Like, a responsible gun owner would never even... And that's why the police didn't shoot at him from the ground. You can't.
No.
Unless you have a sniper.
Right. Like, are we...
Or they're firing one shot.
Is he 25 yards away?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, you can't just shoot up into a tower. Carrying down on the strip was going to do nothing.
No. So, I mean... It's scary, but I do like the idea of... having to certify to be able to carry at a school if you are a person that's gone and done your due diligence, and I think it should be on a volunteer basis. I don't necessarily think that a paid stipend is going to be feasible in most districts, but at the same time, I don't know, for like the individuals, I know where I'm from in Buffalo, New York, like the county the city of Buffalo is in, they moved towards having gun owners like register their weapons.
Yeah.
And within like a week, something like 350,000 applications had come in, and the manpower to actually go ahead and like process all that didn't exist. Like, so it's going to take them, I don't know how long, years to get, dug out from under all that. And that's only the people that registered.
And that's on day one.
On day one. So it's like, you think of all these people that think it's just going to be this like easy logistical task to categorize, like to like track every firearm that's out there, when, like we said, there definitely are more guns than people.
Absolutely.
In North America. So, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of, people knowing as little of my business as possible.
For sure.
I don't know.
I'm all for that.
But then again, I don't have bad intentions. So
I agree with that too. I don't know. A lot of people throw around weird ideas about, like registries and, people who can be like, on a safe list or, like,
like the TSA.
Yeah. Like this person is clear.
Yeah.
Like they fly in the fast lane or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of get that. I do, because I'm one of those people who would like to be on the fast list.
Right.
And I feel like I have never given anyone a reason to think I would infringe on my rights to bear arms by taking someone's life with one.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it sucks that you have to word it like that also.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like...
It was well. You put it well.
Yeah, it's just such a tricky subject these days. Like, I don't
It's a climate that like you have to be careful how you navigate. Like I don't talk about, like, you're the person I've talked the most to about my opinion on firearms,
I like
whatever, in a very long time, because it's generally such an unpopular thing. Arizona kind of being the exception. It's like they're kind of gun nutty, whatever. But no, I don't really like every day have that conversation. Like if you go to social media, like there may be a couple of pictures of my business partner and I like hunting. That's a whole different thing. But I just don't want to put that out, into the universe and have people, associate what they know, which is by and large ignorant, with me.
For sure. Absolutely.
And it sucks that it has to be that way because,
there's negative stigmas on it.
For sure. Like, I mean, I got some power tools that are pretty scary too. Like I could, should I keep those off social media? I don't know.
Oh man, I always make that argument too. There's the social media thing's interesting. It's always weird to me when a tragedy happens and the first thing they do is start picking apart like the kid's social media.
Yeah.
And they're like, this kid posted this on social media 2 years ago and it's a clear indication.
Right.
And I'm like, oh really? Because his 80 friends were all online when he posted that shit and they all read it.
Right.
Like, and it's like, do you know how social media works? Because I do. Like, people see shit in their one minute time frame and then it's gone and like you never see it on your feed again.
Like, and it's so funny because with having to use social media a little bit more for business now, I've learned more about it in the past like year or two than I ever imagined that I would.
For sure.
And to look at like the statistics that come through when you have a business page through like Facebook for whatever example, like if you put up a video about podcasting and it's a 2.5 minute long video, most of the time people don't make it out of the first 15 seconds.
Oh no.
It's the number of people that get past like the 15 to 20 second mark is so low.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think people maybe give social a little bit too much credit that way.
Absolutely.
What absolutely drives me nuts are people that, send, thoughts and prayers. It's like, maybe we could have avoided this if you sent more thoughts and prayers.
I don't like it either.
I don't like, I feel like it's like piling on, like almost like virtue signaling. And it's hard to watch. Like every time someone puts the overlay on a profile picture about the most recent tragedy, it's like it's Me Too activism.
Have you it's for sure Me Too activism. Have you do you watch stand-up comedy a lot? Or
I'm familiar.
Anthony Jeselnik.
Yeah.
It's like his joke.
Yeah.
It's like literally word for word his joke. He's like, people they immediately get on and say thoughts and prayers, so and he's like, all that is don't forget about me today.
Yeah.
Don't forget I exist today too.
Yeah, basically.
And here's my post letting you know that I exist too today.
Right.
And it's not like even a genuine like who after they tweet that like goes back to eating their lunch and continues thinking about the tragedy and shit.
No,
it's like they feel better, they tweeted about it, they move on, and it's like it's all it is just a give me likes and I'm involved.
Yeah.
And you're not. It's weird.
I usually try to steer clear. If anything, I think of a Hemingway, like it's like someone I admire very much is Hemingway. Always have. And I just always think of the line from The Sun Also Rises with, the world's a fine place and it's worth fighting for. So, I think about that a lot. But I usually try to keep that shit to myself because there's people that are actually dealing with serious things. But man, I couldn't even tell you. The amount of these things that we're dealing with here in the United States, like, I don't think it's stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I do like, so you mentioned Rogan a couple times, like Jordan Peterson. He's, a guest that he has on there quite a bit. Social psychologist from Canada. Like, he was talking about how in Canada they do not publicize people who commit particular types of crimes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's huge. Like, if someone knew there was zero incentive for carrying out this nonsense, this evil, and ending innocent lives, if they knew that their face was never going to be anywhere, no one was going to be discussing their cause. No one was going to be discussing their motivation, that they would just simply like be blinked out of existence after they commit, suicide by cop.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would change things.
I think it would. I think the media is the biggest influencer in today's generation.
If it bleeds, it leads, right?
It's a problem that a lot of people, I think, are starting to notice.
Yeah. That
the media just won't let it go, and the media does have its own agenda.
For sure. Sell ads.
Absolutely. And they keep drilling it home because they want you to tune into their channel because you agree with what their channel's saying.
Right. And it just gets more and more salacious.
And we don't need to put their face on, and we don't need to talk about it 2 years later when they go to court finally, and we don't, you know what I mean? Like it continues, like it's a vicious cycle for every single fucking event. And I do think that is a problem, and I do think it could be solved. Like realistically, studying media studies, like I understand how corporations work, like fucking put in media directors, broadcast station directors, whoever, producers on those stations who say we will not run those programs. Yeah. And even if they're sending people out to film it, to keep up, media, so people see them covering the event, keep up safe face in that situation. Right. Great. But then when the 12 o'clock news comes on, that shit never airs. Well, it's never a part of it because everyone collectively says, we're not going to talk about that fucking guy.
Well, like, think about, like, the media 80 years ago, 70, 80 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
With, like FDR. Okay? So, the leader of the free world lives in a chair most of the time. The media knew it. Did they publicize? That kind of thing? Or, like with presidents that have stepped out on their wives. Like, the media knows this. They didn't necessarily like publicize it, and it was just out of like regard for the office.
Oh yeah,
and that's like such a shitty low key example. But like, how about out of respect for the victims of an animal like that, maybe don't trudge it in front of people's faces, or like
I think one of the sickest things I see is when they list all the names of the victims, and then they share that on like a poster that some company created. Yeah. Like look at the names of the people we lost. Yeah. And it's like, I understand the point, but how disrespectful is it to all those people who don't have a say that you're putting their fucking name on that poster for your propaganda campaign? And back to the media about 80 years ago. The media has changed for sure. Yeah. And one thing I did say on another podcast, it's just like, I read it online. It's such a true statement. Or maybe it was on the Jerry. I don't fucking remember. It was back then, 100 years ago, there was one story. Doesn't matter what it was. The radio, TV news. The media had their one chance, their one slot, their 1 hour to give you the news. And it had to be accurate. It had to be the same fucking thing. Yeah. If the president came on, it was all just broadcast live, and then you never saw it again. Right. It was one message, and you didn't get to argue with it instantaneously.
Didn't have 15-second sound bites?
Yes. Yeah. You didn't have 10 different sources playing at the same time giving you 10 different stories about the same thing. Right. And that is a real problem. And I don't know how we address that. And I don't know how we reel in the media in that way. But, people are getting upset. I don't know if you know, people are getting kicked off YouTube. YouTube's taking kind of a more left stance on a lot of shit. Yeah. And a lot of the tech industries do. Mm-hmm. And they're kicking a lot of alt-right media off. Yeah. And people are like, oh, it's alt news, it's all right and shit. And I'm like, well, isn't that part of the problem that you're calling it alternative news? Yeah. That they're just giving you an entirely different set of facts. And they don't have a TV station because even broadcast networks don't put up with that shit. Yeah. So all they have is YouTube channels. Yeah. It's fucking weird.
Like, and people are like, no, we need those YouTube channels. And it's like, no, you don't. Like, just go read Fox News or, you know, the New York Times or CNN or whatever you want. And it's like, what? You don't need Alex Jones giving you conspiracy theories online.
People love their teams.
It's weird, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
even the lies, even like the lies.
No, it totally is. Like you talked about, you threw the tribalism word out there earlier, man. People love their teams. Love their teams. Like, it's so funny to me that people like shackle themselves to that, because it's like, what are the odds that whatever this, like, so whatever, you're a 24-year-old kid living in Arizona, and there's a 67-year-old man in South Carolina, and he is a Democrat, and you are a Democrat, so everything that this 16 or 67-year-old man in South Carolina thinks, like, you identify with, you agree with, like, that's, to me, seems like so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
Like,
it is
so
bizarre.
he speaks for you entirely on every single issue because you're on the same team.
That's bizarre.
Like, you have the benefit of very different experiences, and I just don't, I never understood that. Why can't, like, I'm sure both sides, like, have the best of intentions, and why can't you just, like, look in and say, like, oh, I agree with this person here, or I agree with that person there. I just never understood why it has to be all or nothing. And I think that all or nothing is like a dangerous road.
Yeah, it's a real problem.
Yeah, because that's when, you know, people start beating up people that aren't on their team. And that's supposed to be the exact opposite of what we're about.
Yeah.
Here. It's, I mean, what I think, but
yeah.
I don't know, man. Just own a gym.
I know, right? I know, we can totally get on a happier topic.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. I know, it's so hard. I think one of my it's really difficult to for me, like, the school shooting and stuff, it's so prevalent and it's so, like, big on the media lately. It's so hard to not talk about it.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, it's like people need to understand it's okay to sit down with someone you don't agree with and like it's fine. Like, you don't have to fucking agree with your grandparents on gun laws or your parents. Like, it's just like, I think that's one reason I really enjoy doing a podcast, and it's just like, I don't want people to be afraid of having, like, these weird conversations. Like, I know a lot of people who don't like posting on Facebook, like, their opinions, because they're like, oh, my family would see it.
Yeah.
And I get that, but at the same time, like, why can't all of that, every person involved in your family just be like, I respect your opinion?
No, that's not how it works. What happens is you say the unpopular thing, and then you just get piled on.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure, because you're half a tard, and everyone's gonna jump on your back. Oh yeah, for sure. So, no, man, it's silly, but at the same time, like, I don't participate in that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't really, unless, like, I'll if I throw something out there in a conversation, usually it's pretty innocuous. Like, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. I'm not trying to bring up some, like, new stunning point to turn the conversation in a particular direction. Like,
yeah,
I'm not trying to alienate anybody, because, you know, I'm just a businessman. Like, that's all I'm trying to do. So I don't want to say something that's going to make people not be comfortable to work with me.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Oh, professional setting's a lot different for sure.
For sure. But, like, but it's weird just to think that social media has become that for me. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, I really just want to take pictures of my dog and the barbecue I just ate. Like, I'm really about that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not so much, you know, that's not so much what I use it for anymore.
Oh man, I'm with you. Oh, we could change the topic really quick. Let's get to something happier. Do you like Arizona sports? You're a hockey fan, right?
Yeah, I grew up big time hockey fan.
Where'd you grow up? Buffalo?
I did. Grew up in Buffalo, New York. So I was rooting for the Sabres. Yeah, I don't know. Since I've lived in Arizona, though, I do root for, you know, Arizona teams. Yeah, that's something.
Are you a Cardinals fan?
Yeah, I went to actually, this was my, did I go to two? I went to 2 or 3 games this year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I think, no, I did 2 this year. I had to think about it.
I have season tickets.
Nice.
Yes.
Very cool. Like, it was one of the guys that works with us is, he's part of a tailgating club. So
That's
it's just,
legit.
dude, it's just a bunch of, good old boys with jacked up trucks that, roll out a bunch of barbecue grills, and everybody hangs out and plays bags for a couple hours before a game, and it's a good time.
I really want to step up my tailgating this coming season.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I got that cooler. I've been trying to make some additions. You know what I mean?
It's I imagine it's like anything else, just baby steps.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It starts with a cooler, then it's a generator. And
I mean, we do tailgate.
You never know.
We always show up early and drink beers in the parking lot, but it's not tailgating.
Right. Like we're talking about, like you got to be on the grass.
If people don't know, like if you're one of those people who've never been to a pro football game, listening to this, you got to go to one and go hours early and find some tailgaters to hang out with, because it's a whole different breed of shit. Like it's. I mean, people go all out too. Like, if you don't understand, like, people have TVs, they have multiple grills, like, a lot of awnings.
A lot of.
And Cardinals do the contest that they have the best tailgater.
They do and it's cool. Like this, the group that I have gone with a few times. I think I've been like, twice this season, a couple times last season, but. Depending on who they're playing, these guys they're cool, they're good people, but they're dorks. Like they get together and they plan their menu for the season depending on like who they're playing. So it's like Philly is like cheesesteaks, or
Seahawks is like
they did chicken wings for the Seahawks. I was gonna
say either bird, like chicken wings, or seafood. I've seen a lot of people make seafood.
What was it? Yeah, they did some fun stuff. It was cool. We had a good time.
It's fucking cool. A lot of the stuff they do is really, really interesting. Like, oh god damn it, what was it? It was like bacon wrap something amazing that I was just like, they made that in the parking lot.
Like culinary. There's some people that are like seriously like serious food heads that are like taking their food prep in a field on a grill, like pretty seriously. Like there's some time invested. There was a guy who had like an air fryer hooked up to a generator. Like I didn't even know air fryers were a thing. It was pretty cool. So it is a good time. Like, but probably like the experience, like if you're there to just watch the game, like I mean you can get away with watching it at home. But like if you're gonna do it, you got to go tailgate.
I will always tell people that I enjoy watching it at home just as much as I go to the games.
That's rare. I feel like most people feel the opposite.
But they're entirely different.
Yeah, they are two different experiences,
and
for sure.
People don't get that. Like, I love going to the games, but staying at home is totally different because you get to see replays, you get a pause.
For sure.
You actually know what the penalty was for.
Yeah, there's some things you miss when you go live.
Sometimes you go live and like it's like a timeout for 10 minutes and you have no idea what's going on, and then a ref just comes on the field and it's like penalty this way or whatever,
what
and you're
happened?
Like, wait, what the fuck? And then they come back out and they start playing again, and you're cool. I have no idea what happened.
I try to keep I go one or two times a season, and when I go I usually try to throw down and get dumb seats. That's what I like to do. In 2020, my Buffalo Bills come to Arizona, so I'm throwing down the house to get just 50-yard line seats. I don't even care.
Oh, that's
so there's gonna be just a bunch of like overweight, pale Buffalo people just in the first two rows, just packing it.
I love teams that fans travel, and
and especially like bad teams, like not even like super talented ones. Like the Bills, they haven't won anything since an AFL championship in 1964. We get a lot of
Dolphins fans and stuff too. Like just a lot of these people that come across the nation, and they're just hardcore, diehard people, and I love it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
But the people I hate are like the Niners fans that come. The biggest issue in Arizona sports is we haven't won championships, and no one will get behind the fucking teams.
Yeah,
and it's so sad that like people won't just support the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But
they're not going anywhere. So you got that going for you. Like the issue with like Buffalo is it's a smaller market team, and they're not super successful. So they're kind of like a Green Bay in that they don't have a gigantic local following. Like the New York Giants, like they've got zillions of people in the city and in Jersey that are rooting for them. Like Green Bay, they're a little bit more scattered around the country. like that's a small market, small place to have a team. Like Buffalo's also a small place, relatively speaking, to have a team. So it's like every couple of years, and actually probably like, I think it might have been like 2011, 2012, like a bunch of like ballers threw down and they were trying to bid to buy the Bills. And like one of them was like Bon Jovi. One of them like was a group led by Donald Trump.
That's so cool.
And they were like, the first thing that they would have done is move that team north to Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they already play a game or two in Toronto every year, so
that would have sucked for the Buffalo fans.
Yeah, Toronto, it's like, I mean, it's like Canada's New York City, just cleaner, and the people are way nicer. But yeah, it's like most of the time, if you see Toronto in a movie, or if you see New York City in a movie, it's either Vancouver or Toronto.
Yeah.
But yeah, they play a couple games there every year. Toronto's a cool city, but at the same time, like, I don't want to lose my Bills.
Yeah, right? No, I always say that about the Cardinals. Like, Diamondbacks have always been kind of in this weird flux because where the Diamondbacks are right now, they've had so many weird problems with the city on paying for, like, renovations and they're part of the contract and shit that, like, they've threatened to leave, like, in the state if, you know, another town won't take them.
Yeah.
And it sucks. That,
it would be sad.
You don't have enough fans that buy tickets that like fund this shit. That like, and that's what I was saying about the Cardinals. Like when the Niners come, Seahawks,
half the stadium's wearing the other jersey.
Half the stadium's wearing the other jerseys, and it's so painful. As a Cardinals fan, I'm like, and that's what makes it better when we win at home.
Yeah.
Because it's like, fuck you. Like, you seriously. Fucking came here to watch your team lose, guys. But then when you lose and it's half the stadium's Niners fans,
they're giving you shit.
It's miserable. And that doesn't really happen other places. Like, you don't go to the Raiders game and half the stadium is Cardinals fans.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think about that, like, every time I go to a game now. I remember going to like my first Bills game against the Steelers when I was like probably 7 or 8 years old, and just watching just some like gigantic. I mean, dude. I mean, he's gigantic to an 8-year-old, but he's probably 300 pounds. He's a big fat guy, and he had all of the beer cans that he had drank that day taped together in like a walking staff. And I remember this guy he smelled like piss and puke and beer, and he was like, "You know what they call us in Pittsburgh?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "We call this a mixed drink." he just ambled away, and I remember seeing the same guy like later in that day like throwing up on the ground. I was like, "No, this is football."
That's awesome. Oh man, I remember going to a game in ASU Stadium when the Cardinals played there. Before they got the new Glendale
Stadium. It was
Stadium.
160 degrees because the sun was 5 feet over
and
your head.
They're all just metal benches.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to a game. It was me and my dad, and it was Aaron Troyer and Nick Ewald.
Oh, I haven't heard those names in a minute.
And, yeah, right? Nick lives down here.
No way?
Yeah, he's not in Levine, but he lives in Phoenix. He works up in Glendale, I think. Oh. In Peoria, maybe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but we went to a game, and within, I think, the first quarter, this drunk asshole spilled his huge beer all over us and the bench we were sitting on.
It probably evaporated as soon as it hit the bench.
Dude, but it was like, as kids, like, we just smelled like beer just and terrified. Like we're sticky and shit. And my dad's like all embarrassed and like pissed off at the guy. And like, at like the end of the day, it's like, well, that's what happens when you come to a football game.
Basically, yeah.
That's the risk of having kids at a football game.
Yeah, I don't know if I would take young kids.
Yeah, I think we're in like 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah, that's probably. I would say that's probably in most cases they're okay to go. But yeah, like little kids, I'm not sure bringing them. But
a lot of people bring little kids, and it scares me, man. Yeah. When people start arguing, I'm like, there's kids.
Right, they're right over here. Like, go outside and murder each other like civilized Niners fans.
Yeah, I know some people have been kicked out of games for fighting, though. I'm not going to say names, but you know who you are out there.
No, I'm pretty happy that hasn't happened with any of the guys I've gone to games with. But no, I will. Same thing. Like if a Buffalo team comes out here, like when the Sabres come out to play the Coyotes, like I always throw down and buy like some pretty good seats. And I'm not a huge going to games type guy, but when I do, like when the hometown comes out here, I'm definitely going to catch it.
Of course. I would be the same way if I moved anywhere and the Cardinals or Diamondbacks or whoever played. I'm like, I'm driving 2 hours to see that shit.
It's cool. Like, it's a special thing because you don't get to go all the time. Like, so I mean, especially with like nothing that comes from Buffalo is that good or special or wonderful. So like. That's like part of the charm is that it's kind of shitty. I
feel like Arizona has that in common with Buffalo.
Yeah, kind of like
we won the World Series and we've been riding that for 17 years.
That's fine. You never have to stop riding that. It worked. You did it. It happened.
It's so bad.
Dude,
oh man. I've never actually been to a Coyotes game before. I have never
a good time.
Been to a hockey game because I grew up in Arizona and hockey's just...
It's of like live experiences for sports. It's one of the cooler ones.
Okay.
Like, hockey's really, really
I do
cool.
like watching the fights.
Yeah, and that's something like it's kind of unique that way in that there's like a little bit of a culture in the game like with it. Like if you sit down and like watch a fight, like the way that it's done today is different. So like, before, guys go to throw hands, they'll point at their helmet and that's like saying, are we keeping these on or are we taking these off? Because, I don't want to break my hand on your helmet or I don't want you to break your head on the ice when you fall after I punch you in the face. So it's like, they'll actually like, yeah, no.
They're all polite about it.
Yeah. And then they'll take it off if they're not gonna. So like even if you watch movies, like, I think they do it, I think Goon, maybe they do that.
Goon, I like Goon.
Yeah, so that's part of it, but like literally that's the culture of the sport. So like, you have like talented players and you have players that are not so talented. Yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie Goon, check that out. It's a Sean William Scott movie.
Pretty worth checking out.
I think he wrote and he might have directed it. I know that was one of his special projects he wanted to work on.
It was a lot of fun.
And I think they made a sequel too.
Yeah, they did. I definitely have them both on iTunes. It's a guilty pleasure. There's like zero brain cells involved, but it's a good time.
Dude.
Yeah, with that whole thing, like, I don't know. It's, I blame Will Smith.
Why do you blame Will Smith?
I blame the Fresh Prince. For ruining contact sports for everyone forever.
Oh,
thank you, Concussion. That movie can.
How do you feel
jump
about
off
that?
Of a bridge.
How do you feel about the CTE issue?
It's definitely an issue.
You're a former football coach.
Yeah.
A former football player.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It kind of freaks me out.
Player too.
Yeah. Kind of like, yeah. What the hell are my parents thinking? Right,
dude.
I know. Put me in bubble wrap.
Do you have CTE?
Statistically speaking,
yeah.
For the amount of time that I played those things, I should.
Is it something you've thought about?
No, there was a Boston College study that came out, like the percentage of players that played at the collegiate level, or like, and they broke it down like the collegiate level, the high school level, and then the high school level, collegiate level, and then professional level, and like it was drastically higher the more you went for each level. So
yeah.
Yes.
Did you play college sports?
Yeah, and I mean, it never crossed my mind the entire time I was doing it, but yeah, like there's, for people that are like football fans, like the physicality has been taken out of like the pro game. It's been taken down like 10 notches. Same thing, even in like professional hockey anymore. If there's a good hard clean hit, doesn't matter if it's clean or if it's dirty, someone's gonna punch you in the face. If it happened, like basically if you ring someone's bell, just plan on turning around really quickly because there's someone coming to beat you up. And that's just kind of like the culture, the way the culture shifted. It's not like
but hard checks used to just be hard checks.
Yeah, it was like, well, dude, you just got your freaking ass kicked, that's it. And now it's like, I think I relate it back to the Fresh Prince. God damn it, Will Smith.
I love that.
I really do.
How do you feel about like them taking like contact sports away from like kids? Like Pee-wee football is basically going away in a lot of states. And it's turning into flag football.
Well, and I think I like the idea of having flag football for younger kids, just to teach like fundamentals and things like that. But I mean, like with ice hockey, there's not like, you're not hitting, like you're not playing full contact until you're a peewee, which is like 12 years old. So it's like those kids, you know, by that age, you're taught to, you know, like handle yourself. So that's why I think like the flag football thing is not a terrible idea.
So it'd be safe to do flag football until you're like 6th grade.
Yeah, I think so. Why not? I mean, like
a lot of middle schools do have football teams. Well,
yeah.
I mean, in higher
right. Well, like there. I mean, that's
areas.
like the. I think it was actually, was it Peyton? Peyton Manning or. I think it was Peyton.
Keep going. What do you think?
Anyways, I'm trying to remember if it was Peyton or Eli.
Did they start a foundation?
They started playing flag.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I think it may have been Eli, but I'm not positive. Don't quote me. But
I feel like it's not a bad way to go. I mean, you can still learn all the fundamentals.
Exactly,
and
like you can
have full contact,
develop like the decision making skills and things like that go along with, you know, like having to make decisions at speed and that kind of stuff.
You can learn plays and learn the positions,
for sure, without, you know, getting your bell rung. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. But that's definitely like. You know, people, like I've said it, are reactionary, and everything we do is a drastic overcompensation. So, you know, now when someone like has, you know, a head injury, it's automatically treated as like, oh, this person's they're gonna have
CTE.
Yeah, basically that's it. They're done for, lights out. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I do know, like for the football thing, like. Equipment has never been safer.
It always gets better.
It's unbelievable the kind of stuff that's
especially
out there
like
now.
Chest protectors and shit. It's like bulletproof vests now.
Well, like I think it's I don't know. It's a Rydell helmet, but it has almost like a stop sign cut into the front of it, and you'll see them like they're newer. But that is a pressure plate.
It's like a shock absorber.
Well, it allows the whole shell of the helmet to flex. So it's not like a solid piece anymore that your brain would rattle around like a jelly bean inside. Like now the helmet actually is designed to flex and to give a little bit to help absorb some of that impact.
Yeah.
But also on the peewee level, behind that little like stop sign thing, there's almost like a pedometer that sits back there that like coaches or parents can monitor how many pounds of pressure have been put to that plate.
I think that would be good.
Which is kind of cool because like you can sit a kid down and it's almost like a pitch count for like Little League. You know, if a kid throws a number of pitches, they got to go sit him. So it's like, you know, if you look at your kid and he's got, you know, X amount of pounds to the dome that day, like maybe they're done. I don't know.
Which the pitch thing is a big problem. I mean, it's not like a brain injury disability thing.
Yeah, right.
But I do know a lot of kids that threw their arms out when they were 13, 14 because they used to throw curveballs all fucking day.
Right.
And then they tore ligaments and their arms never worked the same again.
Right.
So, like, there are issues in sports like that all across the board.
But...
And they're always getting better like that. Like, counting pitches. Like, the data always gets better.
Yeah.
And the technology is continuing to get better.
Right. So, I mean... And it doesn't matter because the kind of people that stand to benefit the most in professional sports are coming from like, you know, the majority of people are coming from a place in society where it's worth the risk. You know, like I went to the Dominican Republic like 5 or 6 years ago and I saw kids playing catch in the street with milk cartons for gloves. You know, tell me that one of those kids wouldn't throw curveballs until their shoulder fell off because it means they might get to feed their family. Like
that is true,
right? It's a little bit of a different story. So like you talk to some kid who's like growing up in, you know, the worst neighborhood in Chicago. Like, yeah, if that kid runs a 4.2, he might play football. Like,
yeah,
I mean the risk to reward ratio is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I try to think of. But no, like your average kid, I don't know. I don't think it's as big of an issue as the Fresh Prince made us believe.
love that you call him the Fresh Prince.
Dude, he's still the Fresh Prince.
It like takes me a second. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What did Will Smith do, dude?
God damn it, Will Smith.
Don't talk
You
shit on
killed
him.
football. He killed football.
That no one saw that movie.
I know. I did. I sat down and watched it. I was like, I'm gonna give this a chance.
I did watch it. I watched all the Oscar nomination
Dude,
movies.
I immediately regretted it. Yeah, no, I felt
it is
pretty
fascinating,
terrible.
but it's like one of those things that it needs a lot more research, and we can't, like you said, we jumped the gun on so many things that we just
for
like
sure.
we're instant Band-Aid mode,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, all right, that's a problem. Put a fucking Band-Aid on it.
Right.
Like, oh, we can't have that happen again ever.
Right. But it seems
So
like the
fix
only
it
thing
immediately.
we're not super reactionary about is things that matter.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of like, let's trying to figure out like what we can do about, automatic or semi-automatic rifles. No, it's too soon to discuss that. We're not there yet as a nation. We haven't healed that conversation.
Right.
But God damn it, Will Smith is getting out there and he's asking the hard-hitting questions about brain health and trauma in football.
That's always a big issue. Is like we don't address like the large glaring problems.
Exactly. Let's overlook it and let's focus on how many pitches that kid's thrown today.
I know. A lot of people are talking about arming teachers, and there's a lot of talks about teachers going on strike right now in the Valley. And people don't like understand that because they're not paying attention to the right storylines. And it's like, dude, like it just happened in I think Virginia.
Yeah, it was West Virginia.
And it worked.
Yeah.
They didn't get enough of a pay raise, in my opinion.
Right.
But it did work.
Right.
But now Arizona's 48th in pay or 49th or whatever in state, and now we're going down the same path.
Yeah. But I think the difference is Arizona is a right to work state, so teachers associations are not unions.
Yeah.
So teacher associations don't have basically the right to negotiate contracts. So there is no like educators union here. There are associations, but those associations aren't really negotiating deals.
Yeah.
So if all of the teachers walked out, I think you've got a leg to stand on. But if they don't all walk out,
it's like, it's an all or nothing thing.
It's exactly.
They could fire the ones that want to walk out.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know. I do know that those people don't get enough. They're not compensated the way that I think they should be. But it was cool, like, since going into business, anytime that I can, like, I donate sessions to like raffles.
That's awesome.
So like just a couple elementary schools that are nearby, like they were running around trying to collect stuff, and I definitely gave some sessions and stuff like that, and trying to advertise on like sports posters and stuff like that. That to me, it's like not going to really give much back to my business, but it's cool to me to think like, man, I was there. I want to.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was kind of neat.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always nice to, even those small little things.
Yeah, it's just a goofy, dumb thing. Like, I remember looking at those sports posters that, were like for spring sports, they have all the kids doing whatever cool spring stuff, and then, all the businesses at the bottom. Like, I was kind of thinking, like, man, it'd be cool if I got to be there one day.
That is
Which
sick.
is such like a minor thing.
And now you're there.
Yeah.
We should talk about your business, though. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes in.
Serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Isn't it great how it flies by?
Yeah, I didn't even realize. That was... It's kind of a hike. Well,
we should definitely spend at least 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, let's just plug it real quick and then
let's
plug it real quick and then be done.
So the Body Shop Gilbert.
Yeah, that
was your journey.
was.
We started talking about it earlier from you quit your job as a teacher, took a risk on yourself to start the Body Shop Gilbert.
Yeah.
Now you're up and running.
It was funny because like my first gig doing like nutrition, my first like paid gig, because I did this, I helped people for years because it was just something that I like to do. But, since getting certified, like, my first like paid opportunity was to ghostwrite diets for one of those people we see on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yep. So like that, that gorgeous girl with a zillion followers, like who's selling you her like booty program, like, you're buying it from a big bearded dude. Like that's what, like that's who's doing your work.
How'd you stumble into that?
I just knew some people. That was about it.
That's awesome.
And no, it was cool. But did that, wrote diets, was taking on, then eventually that segued into taking on online clients and doing that while I was teaching, which was cool. And, got about 20, 25 people that way. And then since getting like with my business partner now and starting, this venture, like the Body Shop, like we do the Body Shop Gilbert.com, and then that's like our online consulting business. And then we have our brick and mortar. But we built out basically a program through Google that all of our nutritional consulting is done. And we just looked at some of the most popular like apps that are out there for nutrition. Like MyFitnessPal is a pretty popular one. And we just tried to figure out the ways that we thought it sucked, the ways that it failed. And we got together with some guys who are much smarter than us that helped us build this thing out. And our clients really like it. So
You mean you didn't know how to build a website and shit by yourself?
Man. No, I had
or
no
make
idea.
A store or anything?
Like I said, I can barely read. No, we had no idea how to do any of that. And basically, we're using Google Sheets, and that's how our program goes. And it's been really, really cool. So our clients like it because they're able to just work with it through their phones. And it's collaborative. So you are working with someone online, but it's not like you call and text this person. It's like you're working with them on this project, and your project is like essentially your meals. We do, flexible dieting, which is, I don't know how I would describe it. I think like for as long as I've been doing this, it's the most sustainable approach to nutrition for people. Like, if you ask somebody to turn their lifestyle on their head, like overnight, it's not going to work. It doesn't take. So
it's like quitting smoking.
Yeah, basically, like cold turkey is not for most people. It's not the way to go. They eventually, at some point, are gonna fall back into that habit. But
right.
No, the like flexible dieting, like we do macros. We just look at like protein, carbs, and fat, and we're not preaching to people that this is healthy, this is unhealthy. That's not necessarily true. Like that's like putting human emotion on food, and that's weird. Like nothing comes out of your oven that's gonna fucking kill you. Pizza is just carbs and fat. Like it's a food that's high in carbs and fat. So if you need carbs and fat, great, cool, go for it. Nothing wrong. If that blows your hair back and that helps you reach your goal, rad.
But you can balance your diet with it, right?
Yeah, well, like you can. Like if you want to eat sticks and dirt all day and save as much of your as many of your macros as you can to accommodate pizza, you can do that too. It's probably a heavy-handed example, but like I don't care if you hit 1,800 calories in 3 600-calorie meals or 6 300-calorie meals. At the end of the day, it's still 1,800 calories.
For sure.
And unless you're like an elite athlete where we're taking like nutrient timing into account, which most people don't give a shit about, that's perfectly okay. Just hitting your 1,800 calories is your 1,800 calories. So that's what we found to be like the most sustainable.
But it's not just calories, right?
No, I mean, you're just looking at like grams of protein, grams of carbs, and grams of fat. Like not all calories are created equal. Like that's not that is not a
I'm sorry, have you made a short with that yet?
No, I probably should.
I'm going to cut this down into a
3
minute or 3 second video, and we're going to put that on fucking
Facebook.
Not all calories are created
if anybody
equal.
they're not, certainly.
That I'm calling it right now. I don't know when it's going to happen. We're going to sell shirts with that on there.
Not all calories are created. I like it. No, man, it's one of the things like certain it's completely true. Like certain things have a different impact on people, and no two people are wired the exact same way.
Absolutely.
So that's why like a cookie cutter approach is never going to put out the same kind of result. So it's like if someone just prints off a diet from the internet, like that's cool. That will work for someone else for a period of time.
For sure.
So man, it's not.
Well, and you have to keep updating your diet
Well,
based
right.
on
I mean, like,
how you're changing your diet, right?
Exactly.
Like if your weight changes, you need to change your diet, right? Like
no. So what I always tell people is like metabolism, it doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Okay.
So it's like it doesn't exist on a straight line. Metabolism is kind of like a house plant. Like you have to take care of it, you have to water it, speak to it positively, do all those kinds of things. You have to take care of it because it down regulates. Like that's part of our biology. So like homeostasis is what your body wants to achieve. And if homeostasis for you is 2,000 calories a day, for example, that would be low for us. If it was 2,000 calories a day and you put yourself into a deficit and you go down to like 1,800, whatever, then your body is going to seek homeostasis at 1,800 calories. So you'll go to down 200 for a period of time and you'll experience a decrease in body weight. But then your metabolism will slow down thinking that, hey, 1,800 calories is my new normal. And then when that happens, most people make another reduction and then another and another and another.
It's a vicious cycle to starting
exactly.
yourself.
Basically, that's where it leads. Because people on their own only know to restrict. Just restrict. So it's not like uncommon that I'll have people come to me, like male and female, that are eating like 1,000 calories a day and doing hours of cardio because that's what they know to do. And they can't figure out why it stopped working. And it's like, I always tell them metabolism is not a constant. It's like a campfire that burns down through the night. Like the less wood it gets, it just burns lower and lower and lower.
That's a good analogy.
It wants to keep you alive. Your body doesn't want to die, and like dieting, like caloric restriction is a slow form of starvation. So your body recognizes that because it's fucking way smarter than you are.
You're just throwing t-shirt analogies out.
Dude,
The campfire.
All of them, one after another.
You need a podcast or something because this is gold.
Well, I try to do these stupid things on Instagram. I call them Tommy Talks.
I know, watch them.
Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you. I put them out like once. I usually try to do like once a week, but it took me like a month to do the last one because I usually try to answer client questions, and the client questions I was getting were like super in depth, and it's like, dude, Instagram videos are a minute. Like I can't bust this down into a minute long. Like, so I mean, like I could probably talk about some of that stuff for like 30, 60, 90 minutes, whatever. But like, dude, doing a minute, like.
You should, man.
I don't even know how that would go.
Why not?
I don't know.
I could help you out. We could talk about it if you want.
Well, it's funny because, like even, like I recognize the value in this, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't.
For sure.
So I work with someone, so I pay someone that's much smarter than myself to handle this stuff for me. And it's funny when you get around someone who's really bright and really talented and like on top of their game. You really see what a dum-dum you are. You know what I mean? It would be like if you got to follow around young Jamie on the Joe Rogan show for a little while, man, and just saw his setup and how he
I'd be a sponge.
Puts together a podcast. Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like this business fitness, it's kind of like kung fu.
Yeah.
Like kung fu movies, like who did you train under? Like that kind of thing. like what styles have you learned? Like that kind of stuff.
It's another t-shirt.
Yeah, dude, it's like the Wu-Tang Clan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I understand, but I think a lot of people would enjoy.
Yeah, I just try to.
I understand it's always a learning process. So
for sure.
I think that's what I try to get across to a lot of people too. Like, I used to think I knew everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I reached an age where I was like, "Fuck, I'm dumb as fuck," and I was like,
"I think that's like that self-awareness is like a different kind of maturity."
Part of getting older.
I think it is actually.
You're just like, "Fuck, I am so stupid."
Yeah.
Like I have started listening to so many podcasts and reading a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, God, like I'm so dumb in so many areas that like I have so much to learn.
You just become more conscious of your deficiencies for sure. Like it's like what I found about this whole like training, nutrition, diet, whatever, this in industry that I'm in, like you keep going further and further down this rabbit hole because you think that there's more to learn. And you keep going further and further and further and further. And sometimes like I've gotten to the bottom and realized like, all the shit I needed to know is at the top.
Yeah.
Like here I'm sitting here sorting through like the most minute details, reading like PubMed. Like I've done that on PubMed so many times, which is it's a site that publishes medical studies. So like I could go on PubMed and I could read about like the effects of like supplementing with 5 milligrams of L-tyrosine on mental acuity. And like I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, I need to know everything about L-tyrosine, and I'll just go like further down this like rabbit hole, and I'm no richer for the experience.
I'm with you.
So, it's cool to know all of that stuff, but we deal with mostly lifestyle clients. Every now and then it's fun to take on like a pet project athlete. Like, right now I've got 2 female powerlifters, which is cool. That's cool. That's very, very cool.
But you have a lot of regular people.
Like 95% of my clients are just regular people, but I've got like a couple like female powerlifters. I've got some like,
to bring that full circle chicks. About being dumb. It's okay to be dumb about nutrition because there's people like Tom that will help you.
Try to.
Because it's okay to be dumb. Like we're saying, I'm so dumb about so many things.
Focus on your strengths.
One of them for sure is nutrition and stuff. I've never learned like formal nutrition. Like I've never read a nutrition book.
Your parents never learned it, so
no, of course not.
So it was not passed on to you.
I grew up on like Top Ramen.
Yeah.
Stovetop.
Yeah.
Cooking.
Yeah. So I mean, like
Hamburger Helper.
No one knew any better.
Right.
No one knew any better.
Well, and it's cheap, and it's just, I mean, that's what families have done for decades.
Exactly. And I mean that's a whole other show. To get into like investing in food and food quality and stuff like that. But
there's a lot of things I thought about asking you about, and then I realized you had a lot of your talks on your Instagram about them.
No,
people could go check like keto diets and stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's a very big one.
I had to stop talking about ketogenic dieting. Yeah, I had to stop because so many people were, I think, not listening to what I was saying. They just wanted their questions answered. That I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm grateful that you guys watch this, but like, you dum-dums need to listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah, you broke it down in that one episode. I can't remember what you said specifically. It was something like, just like quick and easy. Like if you, I can't fucking sum it up properly. It was something about, you're cutting out your carbs. But dieting will make you lose body weight.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter regardless of your approach. So like dude, I can literally tell you what new Netflix nutrition documentary is hot right now just by the kind of questions I get asked. I don't watch them.
What the Health is a big one.
Oh, fuck that thing. Everybody and their mom was like, I think I need to go vegan. I'm like,
a lot of people are going vegan.
Yeah, that's cool. And I just like, if it's done for the right reasons, I support you. I will help you. I've got vegetarian clients. I've got vegan clients. I just always want to have that conversation with them that it's being done for the right reason.
Absolutely.
If it's simply for weight reduction, there's better things that we can do to like optimize your body composition. Like we can definitely do that.
Keep talking.
No. Well, it's one of those things that like usually whatever is the most recent thing on like Dr. Oz is what people want to talk about. And sometimes it's frustrating, but people ask because they don't know any better. But I mean, even something like that Dr. Oz show, you pay for your spot. Like he's selling showtime to people who are selling products. Like, like he did a bit a while back about raspberry ketones, and like raspberry ketones became like a legitimate supplement. No, no. Like I would challenge people, like, go produce like a PubMed study on raspberry ketones that's worth a fuck. And most people can't.
It's just arguably a new fad diet, right?
Oh yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
For sure, it'll work if you do it properly. And,
dude, anything can work.
And you need to cut weight.
Or
is it like, I always just ask people like, I always say that anything can work, but it's a question of whether or not it's optimal. And if it is, like, there's a couple ways to like define optimal. Like, one of them, like, is it going to produce the results that you want? Two, like, is it sustainable? Like, if it isn't sustainable, like, throw it out. And that's one of the reasons why I had to stop talking about ketogenic dieting, because it's not like, it's something that I've done in the past for like sprints, short amounts of time, like 4 to 8 weeks. But like, I like to drink a beer. You can't do that on a ketogenic diet. So even recently I had someone like reach out to me and they were like, really want to try keto, really like wine. I was like, well, you really can't do that, because that's like saying you want all your groceries in one bag, but you don't want that bag to be too heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it's like exactly, just t-shirt ideas. We're just throwing out gems, bombs. No, like, ketogenic dieting works. I mean, it's an evolutionary process that you have, and there's a process called gluconeogenesis by which your body converts fat into glycogen, and then ketogenics,
Gluconeogenesis.
Look it up, kids.
I don't know what that means, but I can repeat it pretty well.
It's a lot. I think it's Spanish. But no, there's like biological processes that are in place for when we were starving and we were cavemen. And
this is why people need to go to someone like you who has done the time.
For sure, but I'm not
to have the knowledge that, so they don't just watch a documentary and believe it to be
right, because all those documentaries
gospel.
Are spun so hard. But I mean, like, I always, like, I talk to my clients, like, I've fucked up more ways than if they've ever tried. Like, I've done this for so long that I have a pretty good handle on what does and does not work.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah, basically. Like, it's still something that, I'm into. But yeah, like, I've goofed up more ways than they've even tried, so that they don't have to waste their time trying those things. Like, I've hit all those potholes so that they don't have to. That's like always what I say. Yeah, like, in ketogenic dieting is cool. It isn't really sustainable to ask somebody to give up a third of their Western diet. Like, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Does it work? Yeah, sure. I mean, are there benefits to it? Definitely. Like, the ketogenic diet like came about because researchers found that epileptic kids had seizures in relation to blood sugar. So, like, insulin levels. When, blood sugar began to drop, seizures occurred. So it's like, how can we take insulin and blood sugar out of the equation and just keep it very, very stable? And they found that by like pulling carbohydrates out of kids' diets and just feeding them protein and fat, they didn't have the same medical issues. So like, there are like certain health situations like where it can be beneficial if you need it to be. Like, I'm trying to think of like people with like thyroid issues or autoimmune diseases, like things like that. Like, there are legitimate benefits to it. But if like you just saw like, oh, someone on Dr. Oz lost like 60 pounds doing keto, I should do that. Like, chances are like it's not going to be a lifestyle for you. Just throwing it out there. Like, you're going to probably want to have a piece of your kid's birthday cake. Yeah. So they're not looking at you like, why won't you eat my cake, you ignorant bastard?
So to bring that whole back around about why keto doesn't work, your whole philosophy at the Body Shop is you don't have to suffer.
No, I mean, like,
while you don't lose weight and be healthy.
Well, I mean, if you're going to ask someone to suffer, they're not going to comply.
Yeah. But a lot of people do just suffer to kill themselves to lose weight.
For sure. And, like, I mean, like, look, I always use Oprah. You know what I mean? She does it all the time. She diets down until she's thin, beats her metabolism to shit, then balloons back up because she starts eating the way she used to.
Yeah.
So, like, diets inherently end. That's the thing. That's the thing about a diet is it always inherently ends. Like, the person who goes to get on like a bikini stage that eats chicken and broccoli for 4 months straight, like, that stops. They don't look that way forever. The sustainability thing is the biggest part. Like, if we can keep somebody like 70-30 or 80-20, like, good food to like fun food, I'm happy with that, because we're still going to be able to move in the right direction.
Create healthy habits.
Right, create healthy habits. But then also, like, when someone feels like they're being denied something, that's when it gets bad. Like that's when people want to go off the reservation and make like terrible decisions and stuff like that. And I've seen it
because they tell their brains they can't.
Right. It's when you can't have something that, it drives you nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a natural human thing.
Pretty much. But yeah, we've got myself, my business partner, and we've got 4 people that work with us online. All doing nutrition. So it's like if somebody wants to work with a female, we've got 3 gals that work with us, and if they want to work with a male, like we've got 3. So we do that online. We've also got our place in Gilbert. If somebody wants to come in and train in studio, we do that. But yeah, the website's just the bodyshopgilbert.com, and I've got that linked up on my social media. So if people want to go check that out, it's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. We appreciate any support.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome.
It's been fun. I can't believe it's been a long 2.5 hours.
It has been almost exactly 2.5 actually right now.
Dope.
It's been awesome, man. I haven't seen you in fucking 10 years for sure.
Basically.
I mean, yeah, fucking A. 2008, I would say. So 10 years.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Long ass time.
Thank you again for coming in, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
This has been awesome. Just to recap, I know it just happened. You are at the bodyshopgilbert.com.
Yeah.
Tommy Jeffree.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to hit you up for nutrition or workout.
Yeah, I usually just if somebody has a question, just like drop a DM and like we'll talk about it. Like I try to educate people as much as I can. Like we're pretty open and above board, and we're not trying to just hustle people out of their money. It can be a shady business like that. That's not us.
For sure. Yeah, everyone who I know has gone to you has only said good things, man.
So, I appreciate that. That's cool.
Someone said no bullshit, and that was it. That was all I said. So I think it's going well for you, and I hope it does. I definitely I am going to use you to hopefully lose weight myself.
We're gonna get started here in a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully we can talk about that again on a future podcast.
Yeah, we can revisit it. Let's give it some time.
See where I'm at in a couple months.
Yeah, I'd like to do it.
That'd be dope, man. Thank you again. Thanks. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Peace.